I guess I was so concerned I couldn't hear. I didn't mention. Oh, we're live now. Good morning.
So what happened?
I guess I didn't push the rest of the buttons.
But what did you change to make it live now?
Normally, when I hit live, go live, it'll go to another screen that I have to make sure that you want to do.
Okay, right.
I didn't do the second one, so it inverted back.
Okay, so
didn't go.
You have to read the disclaimer.
I'm going to do it again. All contents presented in the Russ Clark Show, including statements made by guests, commentators, and callers, reflect the personal opinions of those individuals and is provided for informational and entertainment purposes only. These views do not represent the official position of Mortgage One Studios, its owners, employees, affiliates, or partners. Mortgage One Studios does not endorse, verify, or guarantee the accuracy, completeness, or reliability of any statements made by third parties during programming. Yeah, so we got started about 6 minutes late.
Wow, that's unfortunate.
Oh my gosh. It happens.
I mean, seriously, because if people are used to finding you, and you don't show up for 6 minutes, they're going to think something's wrong.
Asking questions. When I was, running with commercials and all that, 6 minutes would not be abnormal.
Yeah.
But of course, there would always be something on. It'd be
right.
Something would be happening. And hopefully we get back to that, and we will.
Yeah. I'd like to get back to that.
Me too. Hegseth, and I talked to you briefly off air about this, but Pete Hegseth is campaigning now for Ed Galrin. He's running against Thomas Massey. Thomas Massey is on the outs with President Trump,
right?
For a lot of good reasons.
For a lot of reasons, yeah.
Yeah, so he's campaigning, but the question is now, and keep in mind, this is politics, and this is politics at its most fierce that I've ever seen. It's angry. There's just ridiculousness in legislature and all that kind of stuff. I don't like it because you do that type of stuff.
I think I've seen it this fierce before.
Oh, you have? I don't remember a time.
But this is one of the more fierce, I'd say, within the Republican Party.
Well, I'm talking about politics in Republican Democrat even.
Oh, yes,
I'm
definitely.
not just talking.
No, you're correct there. I mean, if we look at the national context, this is one of the more defining moments, I would say.
It's so much hostility.
It's tremendous, and there's no pretense of civility anymore.
Used to be. Well, the gentleman from Kentucky. Please.
Yeah, right. I mean,
don't do
there
that
was
anymore.
decorum.
Yeah.
And what we're seeing is that the left has become so far to the left,
right,
that they basically are in this. And let's see, Victor Davis Hanson calls it the new Jacobin Party. They're so unrelenting and so unwilling to see any other viewpoints that they're the equivalent to the Jacobins, where say the wrong thing and off with their head at the guillotine.
Okay.
Yeah, the French Jacobin Party.
Okay.
During the French Revolution in 1880s.
I thought you were talking about the Queen of Hearts, but yeah.
No. Well, that might be based on the Jacobins to a certain extent.
Yeah, off with their heads.
That story, Alice in Underland, the politics of it would fit the Jacobins, kind of.
Yeah.
If you look at it and squint a little bit, you can see it. So Hansen says that the left now, they're totally intolerant of any other viewpoints. You better toe the party line. Like, they hate John Fetterman for just saying that, they should be more mainstream.
Well, or saying things that are true, like, "Wow, I like what Trump's doing on this."
Yeah,
that is a death blow.
Not allowed.
Even if you do, you just have to lie.
Right. I mean, and I think Hansen is right in his analysis that this is essentially a party very similar to the Jacobins, which puts it in, really, the Jacobins are an older version in a way. They're not quite as bad as Pol Pot or Pol Poi. I don't know how you pronounce it. In Cambodia.
It's the way I always heard it. But
yeah,
the Hegseth thing, and I never even thought about it because he's a cabinet member, but the Hegseth thing, people are coming up and condemning him because he's violating the Hatch Act. Now, the Hatch Act,
I don't think so,
is some in the military. It bans a federal.
Well,
this says bans federal employees, not military. Federal employees from engaging.
Hatch Act is for federal employees. The military has a separate set of regulations.
And he's not either. He's a He's a cabinet member.
Well, that's right. He's an appointed position. In my memory, which can be wrong, of course,
he gets
that appointed positions are not covered by the Hatch Act.
But he gets a paycheck from government.
Yeah,
he gets government paycheck.
So do congressmen,
and so does Rubio and everybody else. And they have. So where does the Hatch Act come in?
Well,
it shouldn't come in the secretary level, I wouldn't think.
Like I said, I think there's a differentiation between salaried or by hour employees. They are covered by the Hatch Act, but my understanding is that political appointees by the president are not covered.
Okay.
Now we can check that. You can go online and check it. That's my memory, and it's from quite a few years ago. But I was covered by the Hatch Act for a lot of years as I worked as a professional for the Department of Defense.
Now, this article goes on, says Pentagon officials and military leaders have historically avoided overtly partisan political activity to align with the armed forces' nonpartisan identity. That may be true, historically, probably.
I think I'm.
But that doesn't make it a rule.
Right. It doesn't make
it just
the
means
law.
No one's done it before.
Well, and it seems to me that we had Secretary of Defense and such make political statements during the Obama era, during the Biden era.
Well, Biden's Democrats are exempt from.
I had forgotten that part of the law.
Yeah.
It's not a written part of the law precisely. It's more kind of a understood. It's kind of an understanding.
Yeah, we don't have to worry about that. Now he said he attended the event after awarding a Purple Heart medal to soldiers. Now, which he did in his official capacity.
Right.
And I'm assuming he went to the event and he gave away the Purple Hearts. That made it an official government travel. And then he could take time off to go do the event. I would assume.
I would say so.
That's an old trick, and they all do it.
It's not uncommon.
Presidents show up somewhere to give a speech that's political, but they usually have a official meeting with the governors or something beforehand to make it an official trip.
Oh yeah.
He gave a perfunctory statement at the start of the speech in an attempt to distance himself from the role. So he wanted to distance himself from the role as defense.
This is me not speaking as Secretary of Defense. Right?
And I think that's fair. But I don't think he's doing it out of anything other than to be straightforward and let everybody know that here's what he says: I have to say up front for the lawyers that I'm here on my personal capacity as a private citizen, a fellow American, and a fellow combat veteran here to support Navy SEAL Ed Gowron, which is who he was campaigning for.
Right. Okay. See,
you think
right there it tells you that he's not subject to the Hatch Act because of the disclaimer. I have to say this because of the lawyers.
But sometimes you can't take the title off right there.
Well, everybody knows he's Secretary of Defense, or most people do. I mean, there's people who pay no attention.
And he represents the government, and he represents the administration no matter what. So if he goes out and does something unacceptable, he can't say, "Well, I distance myself, and everything will be good with Trump." That's not true.
I don't understand how it relates to what we're talking about.
Let's say he joins a KKK rally, but he says, "I'm not doing this as a Department of Defense guy."
Yeah, well, Trump could fire him
right then. Yeah, right.
But that's Trump firing him. That's not a violation of the Hatch Act.
Oh no, no, I'm not talking about legalities. But
I'm talking about legalities. Yeah. So we're talking different.
But he can't separate himself, is what I'm saying. He's still.
Well, of course,
he's still under that deal, which I'm fine with. I mean, it's fine as long as it's not illegal. Why shouldn't he be able to do that?
Well, correct. And I don't see a problem with it. He was appointed by President Trump. Everybody knows he was appointed by President Trump. He was appointed by President Trump to do what President Trump wants him to do.
And before that, he was 10 years in Fox News, I think, a decade.
Yeah.
So
absolutely correct.
Let's take a phone call. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Russ.
How are you, sir?
Seeing as though you have, I'm sorry, I keep forgetting his name.
Oh, this is Dean Weingarten.
Yeah.
Dean, you're from Wisconsin.
I grew up there.
Was Scott Walker, did he have a college education or not?
I don't think so.
It's a good question because I don't remember. I know he was governor. He did a pretty good job when he was governor for, I think, 2 terms.
He did an excellent job, but no, he did not have a college education.
Right.
And he won in a complete black district in Milwaukee several times.
Oh, really?
I think that's correct. I'm trying to remember what his role was. Was he a representative?
He was an alderman.
Alderman. Oh, okay, yeah.
Yes. But he won, and I don't know, I can't remember the characters, but there was one prominent, real militant black guy at the time of the height of the Democrats' control over the black population. But Scott Walker, he beat the Democrats several times to win that aldermanic spot. I thought you were going to back me up about him not having a college education. He did not have a college education.
Now, as I recall, he was a very successful businessman.
Now that I don't recall. What was his business?
I don't remember. I just remember that I thought it was kind of refreshing that someone who had a primarily business background was running for governor. I mean, I remember that.
It just does say he attended a university, the Marquette University. I'm just looking that up. It doesn't say he graduated, though.
How about a business? Yeah. Does it show business accomplishments?
Not yet. I'll get there.
Yeah. Okay. So
anyway, he's known for breaking the unions and the teachers union.
It was absolutely brilliant. One of the most wonderful accomplishments he did. I followed that with some interest, and he exposed how corrupt the teachers unions were. For example, they wrote the contracts in concert with their colleagues in the legislature so that schools could only buy union-approved health insurance for teachers. And the union-approved health insurance was like 3 to 4 times more expensive than regular health insurance.
Right.
And so when he broke that, he cut the funding, the sort of incestuous funding relationship between the legislature and the teachers unions. And the teachers actually got paid more, and it cost the state less.
And they still protested.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember some of those protests, but not all the teachers. Now, I had a good friend of mine from, we went to elementary school together, so I've known him a long time. And he had an interesting career. He worked as an engineer for quite a few years at a physics degree from the University of Wisconsin. And then in his later years, he worked as a science teacher at a Wisconsin public school. And he eventually got a retirement as a teacher in a public school in Wisconsin, which is a pretty generous system. But he told me that he was the only conservative in the whole school. He said, most of them are women and most of them are avid leftists. And I was astounded because it wasn't that way when I went to high school. But of course, this was like 40 years later.
Do you remember, I can't remember the name of the Milwaukee mayor. He was the one directly after that one police chief who ran for mayor.
Oh,
and was a mayor for a long time.
If it was 10 years ago, I probably could tell you.
Oh, okay. You remember the cryptosporidium incident?
That sounds familiar, but I can't place it. The name just sounds like I've heard it before.
Milwaukee and all of the Lake Michigan, I guess, West Shore cities were known to have the best quality water in the world. And this one mayor was lobbied by the bottled water companies. And all of a sudden there was cryptosporidium in Milwaukee that literally got Milwaukee. You think COVID was bad? The whole damn city was brought to its knees because of stomach flu.
Oh,
you don't remember that?
I have. It sounds correct to me. Let me put it that way. But I wish I had a better memory. My memory is okay on some things, but I've had friends who had near photographic memories. I wish I had that. I don't.
But Milwaukee was like that was the first introduction of bottled water. And I was like, why would you want bottled water? You have free water out of the tap. Well, that mayor fixed that. And then all of a sudden, everybody was boiling their water. Everybody was boiling their water. Then all of a sudden.
I know that now in a sort of slightly related, there was a problem in Madison where they supposedly were refurbishing their wells, and suddenly the water just became atrocious. I mean, I'm a little picky about what water I drink. I often drink water in restaurants, and I will ask the waitress, "Is the water good here?" And I'll have them bring out a glass or something. I might taste it before. If it's really bad, I'll just order some other drink. But the water in Madison came so bad that when I'm visiting there, I have a very good friend who lives in Madison, and that we would go to restaurants specifically outside of Madison so we could get better water.
Wow.
I mean, it was horrible. I mean, I've had water that bad in some places in other parts of the country where they're notorious for bad water. And they get bad tap water. It's perfectly healthy. There's nothing wrong. It just tastes terrible. And that's the way it is in some parts of the country. But Madison water had historically been great. It's excellent water. And then all of a sudden they messed around with the wells because they needed more water. And the water became horrible. I know that's not much to do with your story, but it reminded me of it.
One last question for you. Is Mark Belling still alive?
I don't know. I mean, fill us in on the name because it's not ringing a bell with me.
Mark Belling had the talk show from Milwaukee, and he was always invited to take over for Rush Limbaugh.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like something I should remember, but I know that there's a woman with a conservative talk show in Madison right now, and she gets mentioned every now and then. She does a good job. I listen to her when I'm there.
Okay, now for the reason why I called you, Russ.
Yes, sir.
I am who is not ticked off at Senator Thune?
I don't know if I've never met that person.
He's the one who stands in the way. He's a Senate Majority Leader.
No. I mean, I haven't met the person that's not ticked off at him.
There. Okay. More clarity. I like that.
And it's time to start what the mainstream media has accused the alternative media of is the alternative media gives more facts than the mainstream media ever did.
I think you're correct.
True, but you got to be careful. There's some garbage out there.
There's plenty of garbage.
Oh, absolutely. But there are some ones that are still like Patrick Ben-David. Comment on that one.
I don't.
Well, I think Joe Rogan does a good job on a lot of things.
And Joe Rogan.
Yeah,
but I think we do a pretty good job.
Yes, there's a couple other ones that they give who voted for what, the amount of votes, what the vote was. Let me
put a plug in for Ballotpedia. It's an organization that tracks elections and referendums and tells you the background of people who are in office and how they did in the past elections. I use it all the time in my writing to figure out what's going on in legislatures and stuff. And it actually is headquartered out of either Middleton or Madison, right in that complex. Sometime when I'm there, I'm going to have to visit them because they do an absolutely fantastic job.
You're going to give them kudos, are you?
They're wonderful. They're just what you're talking about. People who track this stuff and let you know. And it's what are the facts? And you go there and you find out what the facts are.
That's national or just Wisconsin?
National. It's national. Ballotpedia. BALLOTPIDPEDIA, I think.
PEDIA.org. Yeah.
Yeah. And
now,
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Anyway, so they are one of this what you and I would probably describe as alternate media that give you much better information than you ever get off what I call the old dominant media. I mean, they'll tell you what they want you to hear. They have a narrative that they promote. When I say they, I'm talking about ABC, NBC, CBS, the CNN, AP, and now, I mean, they've really become a joke, but they used to be the major force in the world was the New York Times, Washington Post, and those groups collectively created the narratives that they wanted us to believe. And now we have alternative sources, and we're now what I call a fractured partisan media, where there's a lot of sources that you can go to, and you can usually figure out something kind of close to reality by going to different sources. And over time, you find some that you trust and others that you reflexively do not trust. For example, I do not trust the New York Times at all.
No.
Go ahead.
But you have to read the New York Times to find out the life that the Democrat communists still have.
You can do that. There's a lot of other sites you can go to. You can go to CNN. You can, if you want to really get deep into it, you can go into what's that one with blue in it, where the people who didn't like free speech at Twitter decided to form
Blue Sky.
Blue Sky. You can go there, and it's really deep over there. And in my opinion, most of the people there do not have a good grasp of reality. So you can go to lots of different sites, and over time you learn which ones are lying to you and which ones are telling the truth, which ones are reliable, which ones are not.
I'm a card-carrying Republican.
Okay.
But you both know I hate the Republican Party with a vengeance. I hate their inaction. I hate the fact that they continually get beat up by the Democrat Party. The Democrat Party is smarter than they are. So I have a fix. I now came up with a fix. I woke up as I took my first bathroom break, put my slippers on, hit the toilet, hit the center of the toilet. I had a vision. We need to hire Nancy Pelosi to be the leader of the Republican Party.
No,
it's a bad idea.
No, bad idea.
We'll just pay her for whatever she wants and let her lead the Republican Party.
But she'd lead us over the cliff.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
No. You know what? Nancy Pelosi is I can't think of the word now, but she will show the Republican Party how to beat the Democrat Party.
See, here's a problem, and it's a difference in perception and the way I view the world. And I don't believe that the Republicans deliberately lose. It's that most of the old Republican politicians are terrified of the old media. So they do what the old media tells them to do.
You think so?
Yeah, absolutely. It took me a long time to come to this conclusion. I've talked to a number of different politicians. I said, the people who really are in charge of politics are the media. Now, this was 10, 20 years ago, before our media was so delightfully fractured and partisan. And they looked at me and said, yes. And they admitted it right up front. We are much more concerned with what the media, and there's even a saying for it. Don't pick an argument with somebody who buys ink by the barrel. Well, now digital electrons are a lot cheaper than ink by the barrel, so we can fight back.
Yeah.
Well, I think I'm about 5 years older than you, Dean, and actually, you look older than I do.
Well, but nice for you to look so well. I appreciate it. That's good.
But I think that you're wrong. There's another level of Republicans. See, that was a Freudian slip there.
Whatever.
They're called the do nothing and the refuse to do anything Republican Party, and that's what Senator Thune is.
Well, I think that comes with this idea that we better not make the media angry, and if we do what the media wants, we can keep our seat and have all this nice power and interns running hot and cold in the office and whatever. And we have all that stuff. We just don't want to anger the establishment that exists as epitomized by the old media, which doesn't really
I don't
happen
I
anymore.
don't see that many that are afraid of the media anymore.
Right. I'm
I
saying
just don't see it.
I agree. I should be speaking in the past tense
Okay.
because I think I said before we had this delightfully fractured and partisan media. And you look back then and people were horrified, terrified. Politicians were absolutely terrified that the media would select them as the next sacrificial Republican to be gotten rid of.
Now the person to be afraid of is Trump. Trump has a good track record.
Well, and he is not afraid of the media.
No, but I mean, the politicians that aren't afraid of him lose their jobs.
We saw it happen repeatedly. I'm thinking of, look at Newt Gingrich forced out over something that would be.
Well, that was the media. That wasn't Trump. That was the media.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I was making a media reference.
Yeah.
And then, Thomas DeLay was one of the most effective majority whips in the House, and they did lawfare against him, all backed up by the media, saying, "What a terrible guy! Look at these. Look, he's being charged with all these terrible crimes."
Harder to do now.
Well, when it finally got to the Supreme Court in Texas, they said it's all a bunch of bunk. None of these are crimes. He never should even have been charged. The prosecutor that went against him, it was early lawfare, went through 3 different grand juries before he could find a grand jury that would indict him.
Yeah, I love the tenacity.
Yeah, well, and that was in Austin, which is one of the most leftist parts of Texas. But I'm just using it as an illustration of how many politicians were absolutely terrified about how the media would paint them. Used to be. Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. I need to be more precise.
Right.
And I would say the Trump era has shown them you don't have to be terrified of the media. Look at Trump. We have enough alternate media on our side now that we can win elections without any support from the old media. And there were always places you could, because there were always places that were skeptical about the media. But now it's become significant enough that we have a majority in the House, a majority in the Senate, and President Trump, even if those majorities are razor thin in the House and Senate.
Very thin, very frail. Wow. But it's better to be.
Well, you guys have a nice day. You guys have a good day.
Thanks for the call.
I wanted to mention, Hegseth. We were on Hegseth a little bit, but
right.
He's supporting. He's getting questioned whether or not he broke the Hatch Act, because he's he's supporting the candidate, Ed Guerin. But the reason he's supporting him is because President Trump absolutely wants Massey out of the way.
Right.
Thomas Massey.
And,
he's a fellow Republican.
I have a little bit of sort of mixed feelings for Massey, because some of the times he promotes things that I think are very positive.
But Trump can't count on him.
Well, that's the problem. And
because
he's just not reliable.
And he's very vocal about it. He's very
I support President Trump in this too. I mean, as much as Massey has done some positive things,
there's 6 people against the SAVE Act that are Republicans that need to go away.
Massey is one of them.
I don't think so, but I mean, there's a few of them. They're going after all of them.
Yes,
but I say,
well, and Massey,
this Scott guy, was it Scott Perel? Is that the guy's name with the long hair that was in Pennsylvania that? Republican helped swing.
Oh, yeah.
He's, where he's at right now? He's in Alaska, going after Murkowski.
Pressler, is that it?
Pressler. Scott Pressler. He's going after Murkowski for not supporting the SAVE Act.
Well,
and as they should.
I like it. It's an absolute disgrace that Murkowski got elected as a senator. I mean, the way it was done, and there's a case where the old Republicans really showed how badly they can act, because you had a candidate for Senate that won overwhelming majorities in the Republican primary.
They have that jungle primary thing going on.
Well, and they deliberately put that in order to defeat Trump supporters.
I think, well, I don't know if that's true, but it certainly looks obvious. Like it. Yeah.
It was.
But Hegseth is up there right now just for Massey. He gave a 12-minute speech. And he chastised Massey, saying, President Trump does not need more people in Washington who are trying to make a point, especially from his own party. He needs people willing to help him win and vote with him when it matters most.
Exactly.
And
I agree with that. I think we need to win.
right.
I mean, you can make points all day long, and if you don't win, it doesn't count for much.
Right. And I hope he does. I don't know what the polls are on that.
The last time I looked, and I've been somewhat following, they're very close. Massey's opponent was ahead by a little bit, and I think isn't the election going on like right now?
Today.
Yeah.
I think it's today. Let me see. I got 6 states that are today. It's Alabama, Georgia, Idaho, Kentucky, Oregon, Pennsylvania. What states?
And Massey's in Kentucky, right?
Okay.
And so we're looking at a news aggregator that I don't know if trust is the right word, but they gather the stuff that I'm interested in looking at. This morning, I saw a post both saying that Massey was behind and that Massey was ahead. So it appears to me it's a very close race.
Yeah. Let me see the final polls before.
I come down on the side of that Massey is not a net plus for the Trump administration.
No, and if he wins, it's going to be worse.
Probably.
Yeah, because he's going to be really angry.
Well, he's been angry for a long time.
And remember when
I don't think it's going to get that much worse because it's a 2-year term in the House of Representatives. So this is the primary election.
Mm-hmm.
So meaning, and in his district, it's heavily Republican. So whoever wins the primary is almost certainly going to win the general election. So if he loses today, he could try a spoiler. He might say, I'm going to run as an independent.
Most states you can't do that.
No, you have to put him beforehand. There are time limits.
Yeah, you have to change parties.
Unless you're in New Jersey, in which case you can go to the Supreme Court and they'll say, well, if it benefits the Democrats, we'll change the rules.
Right.
And that's not hyperbole. That actually happened. But I don't think that'll happen in Kentucky. So that means he won't be able to run as independent, which means he'll be out of office, and he won't be happy about that. But his opponent looks like a pretty good, solid conservative who will support President Trump.
A Navy SEAL. You see the recent polls.
Yeah, well, we've had some SEALs in office that didn't do so well.
Yeah, there have been. Well, recent polls, though, are showing Gowron, one of them by 7, one of them that's a tie, one of them Gowron by 7, another one that's a tie. Another one that's Massey +2, and the other one Massey or Gowron +8.
So on overall, that shows Galvin ahead by a bit.
Gowron's ahead by a little bit.
The actual election is what matters. That's the only poll that really matters. And we will know by probably 10 o'clock tonight. Well, here, probably by 7 o'clock, which would be 10 o'clock in Kentucky, how it happened, what happened. So it won't be that long. We only have about another
well, if it was Arizona, we'd have another 2 weeks.
Yeah. Well, we're trying to fix that. President Trump is trying to fix that abomination of having elections that run on for weeks at a time.
Arizona elections suck. His last ones were so embarrassing.
They have been.
And Yuma was one of the worst.
Really?
Yeah, we were one of the last to turn in our results.
Huh.
We couldn't count.
Wow.
Yeah.
I like the French system.
What's that?
They have a Lexan, a clear plastic hard box. Everybody votes by paper ballot. They fold the paper so that you can't see how you voted.
Right.
And you can see it drop into the box.
Right.
You can see it's right there. There's my ballot. I put it in.
Yeah.
And they have election observers from all the parties watching everything. At the end of the election, all the observers watch as the box is open. They all count it. They all agree that the count is accurate. Then they send that count off to the national level. The national level results are all published as to this district, this district, this district. All those are put together. They do it in less than a day, and they have everything done.
Well, that's the way it used to be done, county by county. Totally different now. The electronic stuff, and everyone does so many different things.
Right
now,
it's correct, and it allows the potential for a lot of shenanigans. And even if the shenanigans don't take place, the trust is gone.
Yes, and that's bad. And sometimes they send everybody home, and then they just go ahead and start accounting when there's nobody watching. You know, been states done that stuff. It's been crazy stuff that's gone on.
One of the things I've been watching on a national level is the Trump administration is conducting serious investigations into the 2020 election.
And the left does not like it.
No, they hate it. But they're finding all kinds of reality of how badly those elections were conducted and the multiple potentials
the left doesn't
for
believe
massive fraud.
They don't believe it. They don't want to look at it.
Yeah,
they just cover their eyes.
Yeah.
We're not going to look at it because it doesn't exist.
That's exactly correct.
As you know, Senator Bill Cassidy's already gone out of Louisiana, which is a win. And we'll see how today goes. There's a lot of weight put on the Ed Gowron winning and Massey being gone because Trump has spent a lot of time, a lot of money. It's the most expensive house in history.
Wow. How many millions of the tens of millions? I mean,
32.
32
for a house primary.
Wow.
Yeah. That job pays $170,000 a year. It's a long time to pay that back.
Well, it'll never pay it back at that rate. Unless you find that there are certain defense contracts, maybe. I'm joking a little, but it's a serious thing.
Massey, Trump said on Monday, yesterday, he said he hoped Kentucky voters would put Massey out of business, and that we're in a fight against the worst congressman in the history of our country.
Yeah, well, Trump engages in hyperbole all the time. I mean, it's, you learn to take Trump seriously, but not literally.
Now, Massey says the taunting from Trump may backfire.
It could.
Well, I don't know. It says it shows he's losing sleep. His reputation is on the line. He really shouldn't have gotten involved in this race.
Yeah, well, he's trying to win. I don't, like I said, I don't hate Massey.
No.
I just think that we can have a more effective congressman from Kentucky.
He's a little bitter. Let's take a call. Carl, good morning.
Good morning. My quick 2 cents for today. We the people's biggest problem started when the government took over and put in the Board of Education, and the government is educating our children.
Well, that was quite a while back.
Yeah.
But the big push on that was around 1900 or so.
Well,
and that was the progressives pushed very hard to get government control of the schools, and they succeeded. And fortunately, the early progressives were what I call nationalist progressives. They were Americans first. They were kind of like Trump, only progressives. And so they pushed hard to assimilate people with immigration. They weren't what I would call wonderful people, but they did put the interests of the United States generally ahead of other countries. But as time went on and we got into the 60s, then the schools started to become more and more indoctrination centers for a certain kind of political philosophy.
Sure. That's when I went to school, was in the 50s and 60s.
Yeah, me too. You were probably a little ahead of me.
Well, yeah, I'm 83 now, so that'll tell you how far ahead of you I was.
Yeah, sure. You're 9 years ahead of me. I hope I'm as clever and as sharp as you are when I'm 83, if I make it.
Well, yeah. I think I'm just very fortunate, but I've always tell myself I'm not going to live this long. I'm going to take better care of myself. But but the good Lord, He will give you a little sign to you. He says, "Hey, buddy, I'm going to send you to the hospital for a couple of days and let you recuperate. And then you got to change your attitude and your thinking." So some people can. I used to weigh 240 pounds and did a lot of drinking.
Good Lord.
So that's your secret.
That's how you live. That's a longevity secret.
I don't do that.
Well, I did, and then I was told as in the hospital, if you don't quit smoking and drinking, he said, "You're gonna kill your ass." And so that's the motivators we have in life to do things. So,
Did you quit right away?
Well, hell yeah.
Wow, I'm impressed. It takes some willpower.
Well, fear is a good motivator.
Yeah, it is. You're right.
Yeah, that's one of the best.
Yeah, it is. I'll tell you. I notice I've experienced it many times.
Yeah. And from being, excuse me, being in Vietnam, you get to experience it every more once in a while. So some things never leave.
Yep.
That's correct.
But you know what? We got an election coming up, and some of them are very important.
Yeah.
Yeah. We need to look at all of them important, man. We need everyone we can.
Yeah.
Particularly Michelle
Well,
Pena.
that is true.
A good indicator of how important the election is how much money are spent on them.
Well,
yes.
And that's why this Massey struck me. 32 million?
Well, a lot of that has to do with Trump just fed up with the Republicans.
Well, right. But it means that it's a fairly important election and people are paying more attention.
It is important.
I remember when the number of people voting, the percentage of people voting was much lower. People didn't realize the elections were as important as they were still important, but people said, oh, there's just a uniparty. There's no real choice. All the same people get elected. And it was hard to argue with it for a while.
There's some of that.
And now it's a stark difference. You have a real choice between a Trumpian party and a far, far left party that wants, in my opinion, to destroy to destroy the country as it is.
And that's if you go back, when did the Tea Party start? The Tea Party started what, 09, Russ?
Yeah, it started as soon as Obama was elected.
Yeah, I think you're right.
The tax enough already.
And it was a pretty effective organization.
Very effective. The left tried to copy it in ways, but they couldn't.
They couldn't, and they worked hard to destroy it with dirty tricks, and they had some success.
And then they fabricated their own, but they had to pay for it.
Yeah.
Like, the Antifas and all that kind of stuff.
I find that I see that people on the right are often willing to work very hard and put in their time for virtually no pay. But on the left, they usually need to be paid.
A lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the Tea Party is really pretty strong in Yuma. In fact, we're going to be having a trolley back on the 4th of July. We're going to start out the big old party with coffee and donuts with the trolley up on 4th Avenue. So
and Carl's asked me to come out there and do a podcast right from the trolley, which I think we're going to.
That's right about the time that I'm.
Go to Texas.
Maybe we'll stay, but I'm trying to arrange. I'm arranging a trip to take a granddaughter of mine up to Wisconsin from Texas, and it's right. It's just a little after.
You'll be doing it on the holiday, 4th of July.
No, it's probably 2 weeks after that.
Oh, okay.
So that gives me enough time. So I might be there on the 4th to celebrate the 4th here in Yuma. I think would be a good thing.
Yeah. It's going to be warm. Well, we're used to it.
Yeah, well, it'll definitely be warm. I can tell you right now, as a meteorologist, it's going to be hot.
Well, the Colorado River Tea Party going to start out the party about probably 7 o'clock on the 4th of July up on 24th and 4th. And I think it's a good day to celebrate. I'm going to be glad to be one of the people that can do it. And I'm going to be up there celebrating. So
thank you for the reminder, Carl.
All right, buddy.
Oh, yeah, it's good. It's going to be awesome. Have a good day, my friend.
Thank you,
You
sir.
too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Mr. Carl.
Yeah, 4th of July in Yuma. I like it. I think I should make a note of being here. I might have to leave a little shortly after, but.
Well, you can leave on the 4th. Just do the podcast and take off.
Yeah, I could do that. We'll just have to see.
See fireworks from the car.
Well, given the timing, I would probably be either approaching or getting through El Paso about that time, and they might have fireworks.
Now, one of my listeners texts me and says, maybe your co-host idea of reality is off from someone else's perception. Massey votes with 91% of the time. I'd be surprised. I was surprised. I have no idea. Is he wrong with requesting the complete release of the Epstein files or his opposition to the Iraq War? Probably not.
No, but for example, one of the things that I found objectionable about Massey is that we had this funding bill basically supporting President Trump in the Iranian conflict over there. And he voted against it. Yeah. It was just crazy.
Right. And he said, Hyperboil, really? Wait a minute.
So 91% is a pretty good score, and I think
if that's real, I
I don't know.
When combined with other pro-Israel groups, and Massey's anti-Israel.
Is he?
Yeah.
Oh, well, okay, that explains a lot.
Like the Republican Jewish Coalition and Christian United for Israel. The total spent opposing Massey by the Israeli lobby exceeds $15.5 million. True.
So that tells you something. You can learn a lot about people by their enemies.
Now, he put in there foreign influence ? And that's a good question, because we don't accept, that foreign money, or don't expect foreign money to be spent. But it is pro-Israel money that goes in there, but I don't think it comes from Israel.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
But
if it does, that would be problematic.
You could, yes.
You don't want foreign countries influencing.
But we also have huge amounts of money that come in, dark money, almost certainly from China, some from Russia. Russia's just not as prosperous.
None documented, because if it was documented, it would be a problem.
Well, what you find is that there are loopholes, like Act Blue, particularly, which is a major leftist funding site, arranged things so that you could have thousands of small donations, and the origins.
That is alleged. That is alleged. And I know what you're saying.
The origins were not trackable.
They're not trackable, but it's alleged that they come from China. And look.
Well, did I say different?
Yes. You said that they had it coming from China, but we don't know.
Well, I said that. I think I said that. But some groups, and Act Blue had it alleged, had arranged, which is true, that they could accept these donations without a location with them.
Well, legally.
And then legally they could do that.
Legally, small donations are. So what you do is just get thousands of small from the same people.
Yeah, exactly.
Is proposed, and people, and I know government agencies are looking into that now, because it's become a big deal. When you look at some of the Republican, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but the Republican PACs versus the Democrat PACs, they have tons more small donations in the Democrat PACs. Now they value that just means we have more small people looking for us. But if you start looking at
right,
they've had
you start looking at the people who donated, and then you interview them and say
they have undercover people have done that a lot of time. Knock on the door and say, "We see you've given to Act Blue 50 times."
Yeah,
never in my life.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot of that's gone on, but it's all. None of it's been adjudicated. None of it, I don't think.
Well, it's in process right now.
I think so. There's been investigations going on,
right?
All that kind of stuff. In Georgia, the president's supporting Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones today in a race to succeed popular conservative Governor Brian Kemp. Now, he's term limited.
Yeah.
And that was it. Jones is considered one of two front runners in the race, along with healthcare executives and billionaire. Helps be a billionaire.
Yeah, of course. Money always helps.
Rick Jackson. He launched his campaign in February, so that's late in the race, and he spent more than $80 million of his own money. Just writes a check.
I'm not a real big fan of Kemp.
Oh, I liked him.
I've watched because I write about gun stuff all the time, firearm stuff.
Uh-huh.
Kemp has been, in my opinion, kind of a little wishy-washy on the firearms bills.
I guess I'm unaware of that.
Well, it's my specialty, so I watch it.
You would be paying a lot more attention.
I'm not saying he's horrible. I'm just saying I thought he could be better.
See, in Alabama, the president's backing Senator Tommy Tuberville.
Yeah.
Alabama has a Trump rally, and two other Republicans seek the party gubernatorial nominations.
Oh, I know. Kemp
to succeed Kay Ivey, who's I guess term limited.
Yeah. Kemp in Georgia has been there through all these horrible election shenanigans. And, the 2020 election happened while he was governor.
Oh, yeah, there's been a lot of that. And he didn't really
I think that's where some of my questionable.
He didn't really support
President Trump.
Well, he didn't support.
He didn't support the
investigating and all that stuff. That was the cleanest election ever.
Yeah.
I don't know he said that, but many did during that time.
Right. And we'd have to look back at him.
Which made me
it was the, what was the Secretary of State, Raffsperger, I think?
Sounds familiar.
In Georgia, who was so adamant about everything was wonderful. And now we're finding out, no, it wasn't.
Well, those records have already been confiscated now by
the evidence has been gathered, is the way I would put it.
Right.
And they're looking at it right now.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of very nasty stuff that's appearing. hundreds of thousands of votes.
and of
that
course, those are
highly questionable.
Those reports, we haven't seen any kind of arrest made yet.
Right.
Hopefully.
But, they're. Yes, we haven't seen any arrests for, 6 years?
I know.
So now we're finally getting an investigation.
But there wasn't any investigations under Biden.
Correct.
And that was a problem.
And in fact, I looked at that at Georgia during that period, and the Georgia administration seemed to be doing everything they could, and they were Republicans, remember, Kemp governor, to thwart investigations, to stop investigations.
Yeah. A lot of lawsuits were thrown out to stop it. It's cleanest ever. And in Arizona too. And we did some investigation in Arizona, and there were deleted files and hidden stuff.
All kinds of stuff that was highly questionable.
But it didn't have a result of having any actionable results because of that. Let's take a phone call. You're on the air.
Good morning, Russ.
Good morning, Ted.
I guess they ran out of vodka in Russia.
I find that hard to believe.
Me too. How do you? That's what the country runs on, man.
Well, it's gotten better. I've been told it's gotten better.
I don't know. Putin went to China to get a couple of 100 cases of sake.
No, he didn't.
Oh well, wouldn't it be Japan for sake?
I had to come up with something that rice grows in China.
Yeah. I hear you.
What else do they drink? Mud water?
I'll tell you, I talked to a guy who was an engineer on pipelines in China, and he said in order to get business done in China, now this was when he was there, which was probably 15 years ago or so. He said to get business done there, you had to drink like a fish. It's the only way they would do business with you is if you went out with them at night and got absolutely totally drunk. Because
poop-faced.
And he said that they learned this from the Russians, that when Russia had a lot of involvement in China early on, they were taught you can only trust somebody who will really drink with you because that's when people tell the truth.
Right, exactly.
But it was an absolutely horrible situation because it meant the whole bureaucracy in China were dedicated drunks. I mean, it's just nuts. I mean, and I've had other people reading books about the subject and who said the same thing. They had to drink with the Chinese bureaucrats in order to get their projects done. I don't know if that's still the same.
Well, look at the Quisling that came from Russia that we were protecting with Reagan. What was his name?
Doesn't ring a bell.
You know, the president from Russia,
Gorbachev.
Maybe
Gorbachev.
Yeah, okay.
That drunk. Yeah. He was a drunk.
Was he?
Well, so they just liquored him up and got him to do what they wanted.
Well, it was a huge problem in Russia for decades.
Oh, it still is.
Alcoholism. I'm not certain. I'm hearing reports that it's not as bad today.
I'm reading a number right now. It says in 2025, the number of Russians diagnosed with alcoholism or alcohol-induced psychosis grew to 56.9% per 100,000, the highest level since 2016.
Wait a minute. No, that's not a percentage, I don't think. 56.9 maybe?
56.9 people. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's a big difference.
Okay. But 57 people per 100,000.
What is it in the U.S.?
Right.
Well, I'll find out.
And so
we don't drink. We don't drink over here.
A very close friend of mine who spent many years in Russia as a missionary described the rampant alcoholism he saw at the time. He said it was just outrageous, and it really affected everything in life was affected because you couldn't trust people to do stuff because they were drunk all the time.
Right.
I don't know if what I'm reading, and from people that I believe have a good bit of validity, the problem is not as bad now as it was 15, 20 years ago. That's what I'm reading.
Right.
So
Okay.
I can't.
A lot of people, they have educated themselves and brought themselves up out of the gutter in Russia somewhat.
I hear that Putin is not a drinker, which is amazing.
No. Yeah. KGB was really, really strict on that, on the lower echelon.
Well,
the higher political figures in the KGB were drunks.
Well, especially during the Stalin era.
I had to look at it in a different way.
Oh yeah.
Let me tell you, it says alcohol use disorder, whatever that is, affects approximately 20.9% of the Russian adult population compared to roughly 13.9% in the United States.
So it's over twice as many in Russia.
Oh, no, not quite twice. 20% versus,
I thought you
21
said-
versus 14.
I heard 29. That's what.
20.9.
Well, if-
0.9.
if-
Okay,
if
well,
you
that's
had to
what-
if you had to wake up to that lifestyle every morning, you'd be a drunk too.
Well, exactly. I mean, this was one of the problems. People were absolutely hopeless and dejected and what's the word? Despondent, because they could never get anything accomplished because everything was tied up in bureaucratic knots. And the only way you could get stuff done, this is me being told this by people who left Russia to come to the US, okay, is if you bribe people. The whole Russian system was tremendously corrupt, and it still is today.
When I was in Russia, I was approached by a citizen of Russia begging me to endorse I forget the word I want to use. Bring him to the United States, him and his family.
Yeah. So okay.
Oh, really?
I said, you don't make iced tea that well.
Oh, jeez.
He expected me to do it.
Really?
Like I would, yeah. And I said, you don't make iced tea that well. Sorry.
Okay.
Was
I mean,
that his most enduring factor? Was he made iced tea?
No, that's what.
As long as he did it for me every night, I didn't care what he did.
That's where Ted was denigrating him through, innuendo.
He finally learned. After 2 nights, he learned quite well how to do it.
I'm not
doubt
going to
that
go
their
there.
auto industry. I don't think their auto industry works that well, but he did.
I'll tell you about my
He
friend.
learned quick.
We're not real close, but we had maintained contact for a while. He immigrated from Russia, and he was very successful in the Russian bureaucracy, but he wasn't a party member. He refused to become a party member. I mean, he was basically a researcher. I think he was a cancer researcher in one of their universities, which is a pretty high level in Russian society. And I asked him, well, you immigrated to the U.S. just before the Berlin Wall fell. I think it was early 80s. And I said, you were in, fairly decent place in Russian society. Why did you feel compelled to emigrate to the U.S.? It was extremely difficult, but he managed to do it. And he was also be able to bring out his wife and kids, and I think a grandparent or his wife's mother or something like that. I'm
chain immigration. Yeah.
He was able to get all them together out to the U.S. at one time. And I said, why did you do this? It was just tremendous. And then you accepted these difficult jobs and sort of, like house cleaning and stuff when he got to the U.S. He eventually became a cancer researcher in the United States. And he looked at me and he said, I wanted to live in a country where you didn't have to lie every day in order to exist.
Right.
It's profound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's a brilliant guy.
Right.
So that's how he thought about it. So it was just this profound level of deception at every level of Russian society when it was under the communists. And people knew they were lying, and they knew they had to lie. And of course, this is tremendously debilitating in your view of yourself as any kind of person.
Your psyche. It
Yeah.
just destroys your psyche. But
So
yeah,
so go ahead, Ted. You're
Thank
right.
you, sir.
But
no. I'm trying to get some arms together here because I'm so afraid of Cuba right now. I mean,
You're afraid of
attack us,
Cuba
man.
for what?
They're gonna
Yeah,
attack us.
you read that rumor about them getting 300 drones or something.
Oh, to attack Florida?
Yeah, right. And then the Cuban government came out and said, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. It was kind of funny. I think Trump is just showing this incredible ability to influence foreign affairs that I think we could end up with Cuba, lifting the sanctions on Cuba and Cuba, the Cuban government,
Well,
such as it
Biden
is.
did lift the sanctions on Cuba, a lot of them.
I want to sell
Yes.
Cuba to the Japanese.
Yeah, well, they'd love it.
No, wait a
I
minute.
mean, it would be far better
Yeah.
for the Cubans than the current sort of corruptocrats that are in charge.
Well, have you seen the infrastructure in Cuba on just some of the videos that they've
Yeah.
shown?
Yes, I've seen. It's horrible. It's all falling apart. They can't keep the power on more than a couple hours a day in most places. People are literally starving because there's just not
Why
enough
don't-
food.
Right. Why doesn't Spain, who caused that crap hole down there, help us clean it up?
Spain can't
They
take care of
caused it,
themselves.
sugar cane and
Well,
lead.
first
You know,
off,
they did all the slave trading and
Oh,
island hopping down there. Let Spain help us.
I don't think
Spain
that's
doesn't
gonna
have
happen.
enough to help themselves.
Right.
They're a socialist administration, and they're falling apart in their own government.
Right.
And they'd say, "Well, you won the war, buddies. It's your problem now."
Which is true.
It's absolutely true.
It's true. I think they're out of it. We're not going to have England come in and fix anything either, or France.
So what has happened is that the socialist government, the communist government in Cuba, has become so dysfunctional they can't even feed their own people or keep electricity on.
True.
And their
Right.
their healthcare system is a joke.
This is
But it's
the
free.
biggest thing, and I think
Not
Dean, I think
really.
understand what I'm going to say.
What?
There is no communism around the world. These are totalitarian thugs
Yeah, same.
running these
Yeah,
countries.
yeah.
Communism can never exist. It can only exist if everything is You know what
Well,
I'm saying?
I
That
disagree.
was
I
the premise
mean-
behind true communism. No, true communism. Everybody has to be that way. Everybody. Every
Well-
living
Well, I
soul.
remember somebody telling me, and I thought it was just stupid because you can never reach perfection. So what
Right,
we
right.
see is that Cuba is what you get when you put communists in charge.
Ted, give me an example of a country that does communism well.
None.
Okay, good.
Well, the
What would you
Buddha,
say?
maybe the Buddhist monks up in the Himalayas.
Do they
maybe.
consider themselves
you mean
communists?
they're
Chinese, the one the Chinese Communist Party, basically has destroyed Tibet with?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, if they go back and read some of the early beliefs of communism in the faith of the religions, it may work, but it doesn't work if everybody is different. It
Well-
has to be one thing.
You're
Everywhere.
correct. And one of the big stumbling blocks that communism stumbles over is they assume human nature is completely malleable,
Right.
but it's
Yeah.
not.
Right.
And so they just misunderstand reality. When you have a false understanding of reality, you don't tend to
Right.
function real well.
Right. Like the Democratic Party.
I would say that's correct. We had, I think,
Let me
it's-
get
so-
off. I've taken too much time.
Yeah.
with my-
Thanks for leaving, Ted. I appreciate you. Thanks.
You guys have a good day.
Bye-bye. Mr.
Did-
Ted.
Somebody sent you a message saying that maybe I'm the one that has a false understanding of reality.
Oh, I get that message quite often.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, but the proof is in the pudding. And you look at places that operate under closer to capitalist principles, they just do better
Of course.
all over the world.
No one questions that, I don't think. Well, no one would
Sir,
listen to this
we
show.
question it all the time. They say only if we were perfect communists, everything would be better.
Ah,
Only
yes.
things fall apart.
That
Society
happens.
doesn't work. People starve to death.
That's the left, though. A good question, Aaron. Did we get much foreign affairs when we were talking about foreign affairs and Trump with his foreign affairs and all that stuff? Did we get much in foreign affairs accomplishments from the recent visit to China? I think that's yet to be determined.
Yes, I agree. It's up in the air.
I think potentially.
There were things said that were promising, but the proof is in the actual
There
pudding, as they say, and we haven't seen much pudding yet.
were some great questions. And I forget who it was. It might have been Victor Davis Hanson that was asking, when you get down to have a conference, everybody wants something,
Right.
generally.
Of course.
If China really has the market for so many things like the chips and the market for rare earth minerals and those kind of
Yeah,
things.
you're talking about internal market, right? When he says really has the market.
Well, the market, they do 90% of the rare earth minerals. They control 90%.
Right, but I think he might be making a case.
No, that's me saying it. That's
all
me.
right.
No,
Go ahead.
I'm just asking. And I think it was Victor Davis Hanson that mentioned that if they already have that, what could they possibly want? what is it that they want from the United States if they already control this stuff?
Yeah, right.
What do they want from the which really opens up a lot of questions. China knows that they're even though their strength and their position and strong in many of these markets, it isn't enough right now. It is not enough because it's cracking. It's cracking, and that was according to
I
Hansen.
agree.
That other people are digging into it. Other people are looking at it and pointing out. And Trump has mentioned that China is the bully that they are. That they are the trying to take over countries, trying to influence other countries and everything. And it's not quiet anymore. And he said so they had things to go to the negotiating table. That's why they want to cooperate. And
absolutely.
they sense that things are going to leave them quickly.
China has a lot of vulnerabilities. A lot of its, how to put it, negotiating power is based on other people believing they're strong, whether they are or not. And I don't think they're anywhere near as strong as they've been made up to be. And I read lots of articles talking about the immense problems that China has.
Well, I've read some financial problems on it, but I don't know what to believe on that. I mean, I have no.
Well, it's difficult because China is, it isn't a completely closed society, but the Chinese Communist Party keeps a tighter control on information flow in China than almost any other country in the world, with possible exceptions like North Korea
or London.
Well, yeah, we're seeing, it's so sad to see the UK, where we got many of our beginnings for things like free speech and the Second Amendment,
well,
for
it all
example.
started with the Magna Carta, they said,
right? And now we see in the UK, free speech just really doesn't exist anymore.
The same listener says, isn't China communist? In some ways, they are outplaying the U.S. strategically and economically. I would disagree on both of those. I think economically,
I disagree on all three. They're not really communist anymore. They've become sort of a pseudo-fascist regime.
But economically, we're still much stronger. But they're big. They're the second in the world. There's no question.
They are big, but they have a lot of problems. I mean, the real estate problems there are probably just as bad, if not worse, as what we experienced in the 2008 bust.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other things. Their one-child policy is coming back to bite them.
Yeah.
I could, how much do you want me to go on?
No, not anymore. No.
Okay.
Plus, they send a lot of people to the United States.
Yes.
To steal technology, steal ideas, and all that, and they keep doing it year after year after year,
right,
because we tend to have a freer, more open society that promotes innovativeness, that promotes.
Correct, but this is,
and they don't.
It's a problem for the Chinese too. You send hundreds of thousands of people to the United States, and those people look at the United States and they say, "Huh. This isn't what I was taught. Somebody's been lying to me."
But it doesn't matter.
Well, I disagree. I think that's what happened with the old Soviet Union.
Well,
they started discovering, and they realized that what they'd been taught about the United States was false, and that brings everything else into a problem.
Maybe, but what I've heard is that they send so many people here, and maybe only 3 or 4% are spies. Only 3 or 4%.
Oh, it could be a lot higher.
Through.
Yeah, I understand.
And that's where they get information like how to build an F-35 that looks exactly like an F-35 to every dimension and all that stuff. They don't get a lot of the details right because their engines are too hot to be stealth.
Well, yes. I mean, it's absolutely true that the Chinese send enormous numbers of people over here, which we facilitate, and they get into very sensitive programs in our universities, and they send a huge amount of information back to China. And that's one of the ways that China has been gaining on us, is because they essentially steal a lot of intellectual property rights.
Copyrights, everything. And
see, they don't accept any of that. They don't accept our laws on copyright or on intellectual property rights. And frankly, I have to say this because to show it's true, we did the same thing with England in the 1800s, late 1800s. Right? We did not accept their copyright laws. I mean, you look and you will find books that were published in England and then they were republished in the United States, and they don't have the English
Without royalties.
copyright, and we just stole them.
Well, China is well known for doing that too. But yeah, we still have businesses that go over there, like Elon Musk, that put in big factories, and they have to realize that everything they built there is looked over, reverse engineered.
Yeah, I've
There's no
tried to
secrets.
understand how Elon Musk manages to do pretty well in China with Tesla.
He does.
And I think one of the big things is it's hard for China to steal his software.
Possibly. But you know where the products that he develops and builds in China doesn't get sold in China. A lot of it's over in Europe.
Yeah,
Goes
right.
to Europe.
True.
It's for the European market mostly. There's so many alternatives for EVs in China that are tons cheaper.
I looked at a recent evaluation of electric vehicle performance in winter when it was cold in China, and at least one of was near the top was one of the Teslas.
Oh, yeah, but they're so much more expensive.
Well, you have this huge range in China from vehicles. They have electric vehicles in China that just cost a few $1,000s.
Yep.
And then they have electrical vehicles in China that cost $150,000.
I'm unfamiliar, but probably.
I mean, I'm going from the list I was looking at. And, Tesla is pretty popular in China, sells quite a few vehicles there. And they do ship to Europe as well. You're correct.
Yeah, but there's still people going there despite. So I don't know how it all works. Why people keep going back.
I kind of have been surprised at how well Tesla is doing in China. And frankly, I just put it down to that Musk is so incredibly smart that he's been able to stay afloat in this real hostile environment.
And when Trump just went to China, he took Musk with him along with many others.
Yes, he did. I noticed that.
And they weren't even on the list. It was a surprise. He showed up with them.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah. As far as strategically, is China strategically better than the United States? I don't know in which way.
Well, what do you mean? How do you measure that?
Well, I was thinking military right away.
No. Their military is nowhere near as strong as ours.
But it's bigger.
But it's growing.
It's huge. But
the army is a lot bigger.
But so what? So what? The biggest army on the planet at one time was Iraq. And it's got the biggest army.
I don't think it was the biggest army. It was very big.
It was listed as that at the time, if I remember right.
It all depends on how you count things.
But it doesn't matter. We destroyed it in a month.
Well, I was thinking about, what would it take for the Chinese military to be a serious threat to the United States?
It would be electronics.
They would have to be able to transport that is a serious threat. But I'm saying for their army to be a threat, they'd have to figure out some way to transport their army across the Pacific Ocean cheaply and fast.
But that's not what the threat would be. I mean,
they can't do it. That's why it's not a threat.
But they're building militarily like 200 ships a year.
Right.
And we built like 2.
Well, right. But are those ships all that important anymore?
Can they man them? And that's been a question.
Well, and there's a lot we have other advantages, and the Chinese in a very intelligent fashion are working hard to get a significant presence in space, and they've been succeeding.
Yeah.
They just are way behind SpaceX.
The electronics, though, like electronic warfare, they did their best in Venezuela to stop the United States from going in there.
Right.
They gave Venezuela or sold Venezuela a lot of systems, radar systems, stuff that was supposed to stop us from doing what we did. Look, it didn't work.
What I give credit to the Chinese for is they don't want China destroyed. And so
of course,
they don't want a full-on war with the United States.
Of course.
Because it'd be very damaging to them and to us too, probably.
But they can't show fear of it. And but I think what happened in Venezuela and what's happened in Iraq
gives them pause.
Many people have said that they've looked at that and said, we want to work with the United States. In fact, you heard a lot of that during the missions with Trump. From at least their foreign ministers and stuff that says we're better as partners. We should be partners, and they're looking for a partner.
And I think a lot of that comes from several foreign policy initiatives that Trump has done. One being taking out the Russians in Syria. Another is kicking the Chinese out of Panama.
Well,
Another is
now, wait-
kicking
now,
the
wait a minute.
Russians and Chinese
You
out
know,
of Venezuela.
So hold on a minute with Panama. I mentioned that the other day about Panama, kicking them out of Panama. And they're not really kicked out of Panama. They've been reduced and they don't longer control entrance into
Correct.
the ports and
Yeah,
stuff
I
like that.
mean, there are
Entrance
plenty
into the-
probably plenty of Chinese in Panama. Yeah,
Well, no, they actually own some of the docking
Sure.
areas and all that kind of stuff, which is fine. But apparently they were getting out of control according to the United States. They were getting to where they could control the entrances and exits and all that
Right.
stuff. And they were
and
encroaching.
President Trump told the Panamanians fix this,
And they did.
and they did.
Yeah, they did fix it to our side. But the Chinese still have a presence there. And that's
Oh, of
fine.
course, I wouldn't expect them not to, and they
Yeah.
probably still have a presence in Venezuela. It's just that they're no longer nearly as influential as they were.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't even know if they're in Venezuela, are they? You think?
They were a big supporter of Venezuela.
Yeah.
They bought a lot of Venezuelan
They
oil.
pulled out of Iran. They closed their embassies and pulled out, at least for now.
Yeah, and that's another point that I was going to make, is that President Trump taking Iran down has also reduced China's global power.
And for now they want to be partners with us.
Well, it's perfectly rational on the part of the Chinese.
But I'm sure they want to be partners so that we can share all of our military secrets.
Well, partly that.
Yeah.
And frankly, the Chinese, I think, I hope that they're realizing it's better to make commerce than make war.
This listener mentions that the USSR collapsed because they were trying to keep up with the United States.
I think that's partly true.
I think
anyway.
I've heard that from many
I've
many
read it
analysts.
a lot of places.
And it says maybe China has learned this. Well, and
Yes.
I don't think they have, because how much are they spending right
Well,
now?
that's a good question. And when I've read the scholarly articles talking about China's strategy, their strategy has been to let the U.S. spend enormously on foreign adventures and on military, where they spend less and put more of their money into development.
But that's not what they've done a lot of development in
Right.
countries
So,
with strings attached.
sure.
But
I mean, it's a smart move on the part of the
but they're
Chinese.
spending on military now more than anybody.
It's
I say
these
more than
things
anybody.
are hard to measure, but they are certainly spending a lot of money on military. But I suspect they may cut back a bit.
I don't know.
I think if I were them, and I think they're doing this, they'd put a huge amount into research, military research, to try to upgrade weapon systems, develop laser systems, get their space tech. I'd spend a lot of money trying to get my space orbital capacity up to what Elon Musk has now. And of course, their intelligence goes with having space available to them. That's one of our huge advantages right now, is that we tend to dominate space with our intelligence gathering capabilities. Although it's not a monopoly by any means.
We spend 140 to 145 billion annually on research and development budget in the United States on military. China spends 30 to 40 billion.
But their researchers cost a lot less than ours.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. They get more for the buck. Russia spends 15 to 20 billion. Really?
That much? Wow.
Russia's really earning.
Russia's economy is much smaller than China's or the United States.
Yeah.
So proportionately, that's probably a bigger amount.
Yeah. And I know they've spent a lot on this war. I mean, wow.
Oh, yes. And I think it's finally taking a toll.
Yeah.
I think the Ukrainian innovation and their support from Europe and the United States, I think Russia, well, Vladimir Putin in particular, are getting to the point of seeing this as a no-win situation.
I didn't realize how much the artificial intelligence and the electronic warfare meant so much until I was reading a lot about what's going on with Iran. In Iran and Venezuela, they're using technologies they haven't even told us what they're doing and all, but the planes jamming everything.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Iran was no cakewalk when it comes to having
They
anti-aircraft,
had a very
and
sophisticated and dense air defense system
from Russia and from China.
You're right, and the
they had
Israelis and the United States took it out. I mean,
And
just took it out with almost no casualties. Just amazing.
Yeah. Well, they did the first run. They had no casualties, and that was mostly Israel that went in with a lot of it with equipment that we share or we
And
develop.
the Israelis have superb intelligence in Iran.
Of course, intelligence to know where they are is one thing. Would know to fly in and take them out.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm not. I'm saying it's a combination of factors. I think we have really good intelligence in Iran too, but I think our intelligence tends to be more technological.
Well, the tech is where, and I've read that the Chinese radars and early warning systems, all that are fabulous. I mean, I heard it described, particularly in Venezuela, that it works excellent. We just know how to work around it.
Right.
It wasn't that it was taken out right away. It was that we could work around it.
Right.
Somehow and give it false signals and give it all kinds of stuff.
I just want to explain a little bit. Technical intelligence is what you gather through machines. Human intelligence is what you gather through people on the ground that you've made into assets one way or another. Right. The Israelis are absolutely superb at human intelligence in Iran.
Right.
We probably have some pretty good assets there too. We are absolutely superb at technical intelligence.
And my understanding is China is pushing to be the biggest in AI and the biggest.
They are. It's a race.
It is a race. And
I'm happy that it's not over. I've read a lot of the speculation, informed theory and stuff. It's really scary because the theory is that AI, once it gets to a certain point, accelerates so fast.
But I don't know it well enough to be that scared, but I should be because I can't wrap my head around all of it. But it is so impressively.
I think it's turning out to be a harder nut to crack than people thought.
What? To get it to the point?
To get AI that is actually anywhere near as smart as a human.
Okay.
I mean, it can solve problems faster in a lot of ways than humans can in a lot of ways. It just turns out to get to the point where it can actually do stuff reliably better than a human is not easy.
To program logic.
Yeah. And it's not just the logic, it's understanding reality.
Okay.
I mean, you can have computers that are pretty good at making programs.
Logic and comprehension.
Yes. And my daughter tells me this all the time, and she's a highly paid programmer. That's her career. And she says, it turns out it's just really a difficult problem.
Right.
And so that makes me happier because it means our digital overlords are not going to be as competent as we were worried about.
But the military AI, even though it's not at the point of logic and comprehension,
at organizing things.
Apparently we're very good at being able to overwhelm others that are trying to jam, trying to confuse. My understanding on these aircraft carriers, the Iranians tried to swarm one of them, the Lincoln.
Right.
And they did that with multiple missiles, multiple drones, and they had submarines and everything else, and these small ships all swarm it. But before they started to swarm, they put in a very powerful jamming to jam up all the sensors that the Lincoln had, and Lincoln was able to overcome that in like 56 seconds. And they had 14 minutes before everything started hitting them.
Well, right. The Iranians, very smartly looked at our war games, and they said, what in these war games works to overcome an aircraft carrier group? And they said a swarm has shown in the war games, if you swarm it, you overwhelm the defenses and some of it
which
gets
makes
through.
Sense.
It does. It makes perfect sense. But we also learned from the war games and said, how do we overcome the swarm? And we learned that too.
Well, and if it's swarming at the same time and jammed at all your sensors and you're blind, you're in trouble.
Exactly.
And I don't understand the electronics of that and how we have systems that can communicate around jamming.
It's highly classified, and I don't know anything about it, but I can see the results.
Yeah.
And the fact is that we looked at those problems partly because of our war gaming, the same wargaming that the Iranians studied as a way to try to overcome us.
Right.
And we also learned lessons. And, the opposition always gets a vote in a military operation. And it turned out our wargaming or our studies were able to overcome the Iranian wargaming and studies.
There's questions, and we're building our 13th aircraft carrier. There's questions about whether or not it makes sense because they're such a big target.
Absolutely.
But we seem to not be stopped by that. We're still building it, and it seems like there was quite a test in Iran on whether it is just a big target. And it looks like
it's a big target with lots of good defenses.
Well, and it's got a lot of other ships around it that add to that defense. And
Oh, exactly. It's a whole group. It's a whole carrier group with all kinds of stuff there. And it turns out it's not as easy to sink them or to hit them hard as we were worried about.
You got to get it hit first, and so far there's not been a scratch on it.
And here's the thing: what this does is it throws a huge amount of uncertainty into any opponent's planning.
I wonder about these hypersonic missiles, though. They come in, they're supposed to be hypersonic, mean more than 5 times the speed of sound.
Right.
Of course, they fly at that. But when they actually get to altitude and come down, they're coming down even faster than that. They're going to reach more like 8 or 9 Mach.
The problems is that it takes a lot of fuel.
Well, it doesn't matter. They've got them.
Well, sure.
But I'm saying, how do you defend against that?
Well, we've come up with some things to do so. And it looks like, and we're learning a lot by the Ukrainian war.
Right.
They've had hypersonic missiles flung at them from the Russians, and they've come up with ways to defend. It's just not a one kill obvious problem. It turns out that hypersonic missiles have their own problems and weaknesses.
Yeah.
And we figured out ways to exploit some of those. So I am frankly extremely pleased at how well our military establishment has been able to respond to threats around the world. And part of it is we spend a lot of money.
Yeah.
I mean, even though everything is more expensive in the U.S. than it is in Russia or China, the money we spend is spent, in my opinion, it's spent better here than it is either the other countries because we're frankly not as corrupt.
Hypersonic missiles, when they come down, lasers aren't going to help. The lasers aren't going to heat it up because it's already hot. They build them to.
Well, this is, I think, look, the missile has to have some way to target. It has to have sensors that see ahead so that they can get to the target.
And carriers are always moving.
That's right. So you can't just put a GPS signal in there or depend on strictly inertial guidance. Well, those sensors are vulnerable. You shine a laser on them, you may kill them. The sensors, I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm just putting that out as a hypothetical. Yeah. Everything has weaknesses.
Well, hopefully we keep up with those weaknesses, because they're scary monsters.
I think we're going to go away from the carrier groups eventually.
You think so?
Yeah. Simply because they are a bit more vulnerable. I think where we will eventually go, and I don't know how long it'll take, is we'll have a much bigger presence in space. Our space force will grow.
Well, speaking of Space Force, I've got a story on them.
Go ahead.
They're revamping the religious accommodations.
Oh, good.
Well, really?
Yeah.
I mean, I know your military background.
Because we had DEI and it ran rampant. This is a counter to that.
According to Richard Anderson, Assistant Secretary of the Air Force for Manpower and Reserve Affairs, this updated guidance ensures a critical balance between accommodating the sincerely held religious beliefs of our airmen and guardians and maintaining their rigorous safety and readiness standards required for operational superiority. Now, you remember during the Biden administration, during the COVID, religious exemptions were ignored.
Exactly. That's just where it came
from. So I'm assuming this has a lot to do with that, too.
Now, this is Secretary of the Air Force, right?
Yeah.
Does he cover the Space Force as well?
Well, it says Space Forces. So I guess probably.
It could be that he, sort of like the Marines come under the Navy, maybe the Space Force comes under the Air Force. I don't know. I'd have to look at that.
It says the Department of the Air Force updated it. Yeah, so it might be. But he says now unit commanders will access the request without calling on a formalized board through acquiring chaplain, legal, and subject matter input per their release for the release, which I guess that's what happened during COVID. They went to these boards, and the board said, nope.
Well, right. And
No
I mean,
exemption.
you make the process the punishment too.
In line with the March 11 Department of Defense memorandum, the DAF, Department of Air Force, amended the application process to now require a sworn written statement from airmen and guardians that demonstrates that their belief is sincerely held and religious in nature. I think I like that versus relying on a board on whether you're being sincere. Just
you're one of those superstitious nut jobs. You don't count.
Right. Kind of like Klinger in MASH.
Yeah.
He wore a dress every day to prove.
Sort of. Yeah.
And they ignored him or just.
For different reasons.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's a very good analogy, in my opinion.
You don't like that one?
No, I don't like the analogy. Klinger was trying to get out.
Right.
And he was trying to get out by essentially lying.
Correct.
And nobody would accept it because they wanted to keep him in. With what we're looking at under the Biden administration, people were trying to stay in by telling the truth, and the Biden administration wanted to kick them out.
Well, I'm saying that they were acting like Klinger. I mean,
in a way, I guess a little bit.
The Biden administration assumed they were because they didn't believe them on their religious exemption. They didn't believe them.
All right. Yeah.
They said, look, you're just making this up to
First
not
off,
get a jab.
the Biden administration, was anti-religious to start with.
I think so. But under the new guidance, military chaplains will no longer evaluate the sincerity of a service member's belief or remark on possible impacts operationally. And I didn't really realize they put the chaplains up to that you've got to evaluate this guy's belief on whether or not he really believes.
And you have to say, does it impact his operational ability?
I think that's
a pretty weird.
Well,
something that you really, it's very subjective.
It says military chaplains will only give advice on the religious nature of the belief. And unit commanders are the ones required to comment on the request's sincerity and operational impact through a written assessment.
Okay.
This includes specific evaluations of the member's current anticipated work environments, upcoming deployments, and the expected use of personal protective equipment such as helmets and respirators.
Sure. I mean, because if you say you have to have a beard and you...
Well, and that's part of it. It comes into the beard. Airmen and guardians need to have their previously approved religious accommodations for facial hair reevaluated with regard to the DOD guidance or having of risk having their accommodations removed. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of people that decide to have facial hair for religious reasons, and I don't know who they are.
Well,
but it's going to be limiting to what they can or can't do. I mean, there's going to be some jobs that would make
right. I mean, it depends on the particular job. But there's a big difference between somebody who's a infantryman and has to be able to put a protective mask on,
right,
and somebody who is operating in a drone from a protected position 1,000 miles away, And
I'm sure there's going to be some religious things that says, look, my religion says I have to do this. And it's going to say, well, that doesn't work for us. We can't have an agreement.
There's always been some accommodations. Okay. And I think they were pretty reasonably applied overall, and I think the Biden administration just abused it. That's my opinion.
For facial accommodations, the decisions authorities now fall under the offices of Air Force Deputy Chief of Staff for Manpower, Personnel and Services, Space Force Deputy Chief of Space Operations for Personnel.
Right.
I don't see that much facial hair on
and there's
Air Force.
Historically, there's been a difference between the services. The Navy had different standards.
They used to.
Than what the Army had. The Marine Corps had different standards. I'm sure the Coast Guard has different standards. And so it wouldn't surprise me if the Air Force and the Space Force had somewhat different standards.
I know Sags trying to clean up some of the standards on physical.
Oh, he's putting in really intense physical standards.
You got to be in shape.
Right.
Even if you're a general.
Well, yes. I mean, I've looked at those because of my own personal, I try to keep it fit. I don't know. At 74, I think I'd have a hard time meeting the physical standards for a general at 50.
I think that's okay. I think that's all right.
Yeah. I'm pretty close, but I don't know.
I remember
I don't think I'd make it.
And I'm talking Hollywood here, but watching the movie Patton and all. The guys in uniform were wearing ties, and Patton, at least in the movie, that was something, to be well dressed, to be, shaven
Well,
and all that stuff, even in a foxhole.
Yeah, no. It was in
that
It
reality?
was in an administrative area, and
Okay.
he was telling these people, "You have to be up to my standards."
Right.
And I'm making sure of it, and I'm cracking down, and which, frankly, is a technique that officers often employ, commanding officers, when discipline has gotten slack.
And taking care of the little things and the little details.
Right.
Other
And
things fall apart.
if people are subject to discipline, everybody knows it, everything tightens up.
Right.
And that's just part of it worked. And Patton was a master at this. A lot of people under him loved him, and a lot of people under him hated him, and he accomplished amazing things.
I think the movie showed that too.
Sure. Absolutely.
They showed a lot of people that hated him.
Absolutely. And I don't know how accurate the movie was.
I have no idea. But I've watched other documentaries, and it seems to be followed along.
I think there was a fair amount in the movie that had accuracy to it, and probably a lot of it that wasn't quite very accurate.
He was really an amazing guy. I mean, he really considered himself to be a reincarnated warrior, and he remembered battlefields from Roman times. Or something,
yes, that's what he believed that, and he was very old school
and very effective.
Right. I mean, he was a significant officer. He was an officer in let's see, I think in World War I.
He was a West Point guy.
Yes.
I don't remember him being the top of the class kind of guy, though.
No, but he was a very competent guy.
Yeah. I mean, obviously they're making movies about him and all that kind of stuff. His death seems to be controversial. Like, was that some kind of setup?
It does, but
who knows?
It's really hard to know about that. I mean, I don't know. I read the conspiracy stuff about that.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I kind of suspect. Here's my take. He was already on the downside in terms of power. He was already sort of on the down slope. And so I don't think anybody in the American structure would have been fearful enough about him they felt the need to assassinate him.
Yeah.
Now, maybe were the Russians possibly? I doubt it. But
you never know. You never know. And gosh, just recently, didn't he? I know I'm going to get this wrong. FBI or something raid one of our other intelligence offices and take back some material for Martin Luther King, and
good question.
That was going to be released.
I'm not so sure about that.
I have to take a look at that, but. Some of our intelligence officers want to keep the other intelligence officers from releasing intelligence.
Well, I mean, because our offices have been corrupted in a lot of ways by politics for a long time, and the FBI has always been a pretty political organization.
Yeah,
but under J. Edgar Hoover, the political stress was, how do we grow and greatly empower the FBI?
That's the problem with bureaucracies.
Bureaucracies tend to do that just naturally. If you have a bureaucracy that doesn't protect and grow its turf, it disappears.
Right.
And so it's almost an evolutionary thing. The bureaucracies that thrive are those that grow and protect their turf and try to get bigger.
Hoover was infamous, if it was true or not, of keeping list of blackmail information on people. If that's true,
I suspect that's true. I mean, I can't prove it.
No, but
we know that they did a lot of investigatory stuff on Martin Luther King.
Yeah,
and he found a lot of things that were unsavory about Martin Luther King,
but not necessarily illegal.
Correct.
Yeah, but stuff that would not want to be public.
Right. I mean, that was the idea. But my understanding is he never used it against King. And it was partly a policy decision by the president, the people above Hoover, who said, no, don't do it.
Just having it may be enough if they know you have it.
It might be in certain ways.
Yeah.
But look, Martin Luther King was assassinated for being effective.
Just like Charlie Kirk.
Yes. That's a pretty strong parallel there, if you think about it.
A lot of people have made that parallel, that they both were very effective. Chick-fil-A franchise is being sued because they fired an employee over Sabbath observance. Now, that's interesting. Now,
that's odd.
Well, Chick-fil-A is noted
as a Christian. It used to be a Christian organization.
Still is. In fact, its founder, S. Truett Cathy, in 1946, established it so employees could rest, enjoy their time with families and loved ones on Sunday. So they've always been closed on Sunday since 46. They close on Sunday.
Right.
And they're well known for that. And a lot of anti-Catholic Christians will mock them for it or boycott them or yell.
Whatever.
And they just grow. I mean, whenever they
they've been very successful.
Whenever they get a pushback because you guys are religious or whatever,
they gain more adherence.
The lines out front get longer.
Right.
But this one's a little different. They're being sued. And the complaint was filed by the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, which you don't want those guys after you. You know, it's a government, you just have to hire lawyers and everything.
Right.
Happened in the Austin area against an employee, Laurel.
Against an employee? Or
they discriminated against an employee.
Well, that's the allegation is they discriminated against an employee.
Yeah, that's the
allegation. So the lawsuit is from the employee back at...
No, it's from the EEOC.
But the EEOC only gets there
it's representing the employee. Correct.
Right.
Well, she's a member. Laurel's a member of the United Church of God. And she went to interview at Chick-fil-A. And during the interview, she said, I observed the Sabbath, which is from sunset Friday to sunset Saturday.
Yeah, so she observes it on the Saturday.
Correct. Company accommodated her request. And
okay.
She works as a manager overseeing delivery drivers in one Austin area location. That arrangement allegedly changed several months later. In early February of 24, they told her that going forward, it would require her to work on Saturdays to include the period in which she observes the Sabbath.
Oh boy, that's not. I know enough about EEOC law that's probably not going to fly.
According to the lawsuit. Now, also according to the lawsuit, she sought accommodations and met with the company officials to discuss alternatives that would allow her to remain in her management role while continuing to observe the Sabbath.
Right.
And the company told her that you would just need to accept a different job as a delivery driver and a lower pay and a lower position. Fewer hours and diminished benefits if you want to avoid Saturdays. She declined the position, and then she was fired.
Yeah, I think that's very problematic. The EEOC may win that suit.
Well, because they hired her in the first place.
Well, it was agreed to.
Yeah.
And then they're changing the agreement later on. After she'd worked successfully in that position for years.
We're assuming successfully.
Well, right. Now, and what we're getting is her side.
Correct.
So we have to wait and see what the other side says, because all these are potentially disputed facts.
According to EEOC, the company violated Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 64, which requires employers to make reasonable accommodations. Now, and that's... that's how it's written, reasonable accommodations, which is subjective.
Right.
And what is a reasonable accommodation?
Well, that's what the EEOC is there for. And
right.
I had training in this a little bit when I worked for the federal government.
Okay.
Because I was a supervisor, manager.
Right.
And so you have to know what these are so you don't make mistakes. And in the past, I have to say, the people that I worked with in the EOC were pretty careful and fairly competent. So I would expect there is a pretty good chance that the EEOC will win this.
The regional attorney for the EEOC, Ronald Phillips, says the duty under federal law to provide reasonable accommodations of religious reflects an acknowledgement by our society of the importance of faith in workers' everyday lives and abiding respect for those who observe religious practices as an expression of faith. But there's got to be a limitation to it.
Of course.
I mean, that, otherwise it wouldn't be reasonable.
Well, the big thing that makes it reasonable in this case is they already accommodated her.
That is a problem. That's problematic. And then take it away.
Right.
I remember when the disability thing came out about making, the disability laws. It came out
right.
that you have to make reasonable accommodations. And I was working for Napa Corporate at the time. And of course, there was this big fear because the jobs we do at distribution right. centers, very physical. Our shelves are probably 10 foot tall.
Sure.
And sometimes, you need a ladder to climb up a shelf and,
sure.
and to stock and to move all that stuff. And the fear was, well, that means if somebody in a wheelchair wants to work here, we would have to make reasonable accommodations where they could do the job. And of course, that would be,
It bankrupt you. You have to come up with a forklift that can be operated from a wheelchair, huh?
yeah, or some kind of moving device, or you would have to lower all the shelves to 4 foot or something. So you need like 10 times.
But
the
the
size.
reasonable standard hits in.
Well, that's the reasonableness, but it panicked headquarters for a while, and they had to sit down with lawyers and crews and stuff and decide what's reasonable.
Yeah.
What can we accommodate? What can't we accommodate?
Right.
With a reasonable amount. And so we did not have to change our structures, which 52 distribution centers all built for people that have have access to 2 arms and 2 legs and be able to climb and do things.
You hear of horror stories, and they're out there.
Right.
But for the most part, my observation is the reasonableness standard has been pretty reasonable.
I think so. I think it was for the American Disabilities Act, at least.
Right.
When I went through that.
But there are horror stories,
Genuine Parts Company.
You've got to alter your whole restaurant for tens of thousands of dollars to accommodate somebody in a wheelchair.
And something that happens when it comes to bathroom accommodations. Some of these older restaurants had to refurbish and do all that.
Well, and it can bankrupt
small
business.
Yeah, and parking. It was a big deal to make sure everybody had a handicap parking right out the front door. And even in my shop, which Precision is a fairly small footprint, we have to put a handicap parking there, which doesn't make sense because any one of our parking slots is closer to the front door than a major parking mall would be to their handicap.
Well, yeah.
It's not that. Plus, we'd come out anyway. I mean, you just drive up front. We're going to come out and greet you and take care of you no matter what. We would make great combinations. We don't really need a parking space for it. In fact, if you call us on the phone, we'll come out. But they make the small businesses accommodate the same. And I know the building I'm in is an older building, and it had to be redone. The bathrooms are when I acquired it, it was already redone. But to handicap and wheelchairs, I can't. There might be 1 or 2 wheelchairs in the last 6 years have come in that place.
Right, and the amount of money that has to be spent on this is just mind-boggling. It can be,
and of course we would accommodate anybody at any time, regardless, and we have. I mean, we've had.
Just to play devil's advocate, I have a colleague of mine who is blind.
Yeah.
He became completely blind at about age 10. He is an avid shooter and hunter, and concealed carry. Personal protection. And I have corresponded with him quite a bit, and he makes an excellent case of why it makes perfect sense for him.
Why?
Well, because blind people tend to be more often victims of crime than other people.
Right.
And he's not going to shoot at somebody who's 75 yards away because they're not a threat to him. But a whole lot of shooting happens in low light. I mean, self-defense situations happen in low light situations. And if he's in his own house and the lights are out, he's got the advantage.
Does he have any kind of sight at all, blurry or something? No. Nothing. Just zero black. Just black.
He has no sight. He's completely blind.
Yeah.
But he has a good idea of where people are through sound. And he says he'd never shoot anybody in self-defense unless he can get a hold of them.
Touch them, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
It's a scary thought because part of that.
He's successfully hunted big game because he has a helper.
Okay.
And the helper says, "Oh, you got to move your sights a little bit this way or that way." Okay. And he shot flying birds through the same system.
Okay.
He has done amazing things, and he is. But what he had to do is he basically had to threaten people with lawsuit under the Disability Act so he could get a concealed carry permit for Minnesota.
And he was able to pass all the testing and
yes.
everything. Okay.
And the same thing, he has permits from multiple states.
Mm-hmm. And
frankly, I'd trust him before I trust a lot of other people who don't put as much time and thought into their actions.
Amazing. That's a weird one. That you've heard of people golfing that were blind.
Sure. Well, it's, people who are blind have a disability.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean they can't accomplish things.
That's right. Pentagon is pausing the Canada joint military board, which I didn't know they had a joint military board.
Yeah, I knew something of that. We've always had almost always have had very tight ties to Canada. Well, since World War II, anyway.
Well, it's changed under Trump and Mark Carney. Mark Carney doesn't get along with Trump at all.
Well, Canada has taken a very hard left turn.
Oh man, and they're doing nothing but kicking sand in Trump's face, and he doesn't like it. And Trump strikes back.
Yes.
I mean, he's threatened to make it the 51st state.
Well,
which is
I don't know that was so much of a
it's
threat
bombastic, whatever.
As he was striking back at Canada. I think it probably had a bad result in the Canadian election, unfortunately.
Oh, it did against us, actually.
Yeah, right.
Canadians jumped in and supported Carney, who didn't like Trump.
Yeah, and a lot of them didn't like Carney either, but they liked Trump less.
Yeah.
Or they liked the idea of becoming a 51st state.
It all started with Justin Trudeau, though.
Correct.
Justin Trudeau and
it was
Trump.
Under Trudeau that it really started. You're right.
And I don't remember.
And that's the latest Trudeau. It's not the first Trudeau,
I don't know what really triggered it, but I know it was down in Mar-a-Lago that Trump said something, you'd make a good governor for a 51st state.
Right.
I mean,
and this is, remember, Trudeau had been denigrating Trump already.
Yeah. And Trump bites back.
He does.
Just no question.
It's always been his policy. You strike out at me, I will hit you back.
Well, the United States suspended its involvement in a joint body that coordinates military consultations with Canada, pointing to Mark Carney, the prime minister, address to the World Economic Forum earlier this year, which just escalated the tensions, actually.
Sure.
And between him and Trump, he was leading a push for the world's middle powers to present a united bulwark to the influence of superpowers like the United States. So he says us middle powers need to group together type stuff against the United States.
So who is he including in those middle powers? China?
I don't know. No, not China. He thinks China's like U.S.
Okay.
And China wouldn't. Well, they might. They might jump into that. I don't know. I doubt it. He said a strong Canada that prioritizes hard power over rhetoric benefits us all. Unfortunately, Canada has failed to make credible progress on its defense commitments. Department of War is pausing. The Permanent Joint Board of Defense reassesses now his foreign benefits shared North America defense. That's according to Eldridge Colby, the Undersecretary of Defense for Policy.
Okay.
He put that on X. And Canada's defense, I mean, they don't spend the money at all. I mean, the percentage-wise even. Now, they're not a country rich like America, but the percentage they agreed to do on NATO, they don't spend it.
Correct.
They've weakened their
because the Canadian military has suffered tremendously under this far left government,
and that's something that annoys Trump because he says you guys just rely on us to take care of you,
right?
Come to your defense or whatever.
They're under our umbrella,
right?
But they refuse to cooperate with us, and they're forming this group to go against us.
Well, Colby says we can no longer avoid the gaps between rhetoric and reality. Real power must sustain our rhetoric with shared defense and security responsibilities, which they don't really do.
There's been a lot of cooperation over the years. The DO line, for example, which doesn't exist anymore, but it was a form of great cooperation between the U.S. and Canada.
Well, Carney says the middle powers must act together because if we're not at the table, we're on the menu. We know the old order is not coming back. We shouldn't mourn it. Nostalgia is not a strategy, but we believe that from the fracture, we can build something bigger, better, stronger, more just. I don't know. He says this is the task of the middle powers.
Saying is, we don't want a powerful U.S. We have to oppose it.
Right. Exactly. It's kind of
it's really a stupid policy from a Canadian point of view, in my opinion, because the U.S. and Canada have always had strong ties for most of 100 years.
Well, it sounds like he's not going to spend the percentage on defense at all for NATO, but now he's going to do it for the middle powers.
And what does that mean exactly? I mean, it's a bunch of diplomatic gobbledygook that basically says I don't like Trump when I read it, as just between the lines.
And in February, the U.S. ambassador to Canada are warned that if Ottawa does not buy the F-35s, North America Aerospace Defense Command, the defense partnership operated jointly by that would have to be altered. And that's part of that NATO thing. You know, there's some
Right.
shared militaries.
As I recall, Canada is a member of NATO.
It is, but they don't act like it.
Well, they're distancing themselves.
Yeah.
That's what I see. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying, or not preface it, but add that I've known some members of the Canadian military, and they're top notch, but they've just been shrunken down to a very small cadre anymore.
And they canceled their F-35, or their review. It said this article said they're still reviewing.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on. I've read some articles that they were going to buy them, and they're not. So I don't know exactly where we are. But it appears to me we do not want a hostile Canada on our northern border.
I think that's what we've got right now, isn't it?
Well, it's gotten more hostile.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't put it in the category, say, of Russia or even China, but they've become very friendly with China lately.
Yes.
And you wouldn't, a Canada that values China as an ally more than the U.S. is a distinct threat to the United States.
Well, yes, just like Russia is a distinct threat. That's why they
right. I mean,
Venezuelan, Cuban.
And if I were China, I'd love to peel Canada away from the United States.
Yeah.
Wow, what a coup, military, diplomatically, economically.
And they think we're tough to deal with.
Yeah, well, because unfortunately, the politicians, especially the last prime ministers in Canada, are very far left, and they idealize China.
Yeah,
it's sad. I don't think the Canadian citizens, as such, necessarily approve of this. But the way the party structure is in Canada, the big urban areas have a large amount of the votes, and those are mostly controlled by the Liberal Party, which is a far leftist party. And they've been able to maintain control in the last couple of elections. The last one, I think, a lot of it was that they were just voting against Trump because the Liberal policies are not popular in Canada.
No, and they become, I mean, even under Trudeau, they were terrible. Like, remember the trucker strike?
Yeah, it's horrible.
They, I think they grabbed their bank accounts and stuff.
Yes, they did. And the Canadian Supreme Court recently said, no, that was illegal. You shouldn't have done that.
Too late now. They've lost
years after.
They've lost their businesses.
Right. The process was the punishment. Huge punishment.
Everyone was scared of the government then.
Right. And that was part of the purpose of it.
You don't dare strike.
Right. And that was a case of, an incipient case of our digital overlords, because all the banking accounts and everything were all digital. Yeah. So they knew who had them. And so they said, no more credit cards work for you. No more bank accounts work for you. Yep. You're a dissident. You have no rights.
These truckers lost their trucks, a lot of them.
Yes.
They just were out of business. And then everyone fell in line.
Enough. The trucker protest had serious consequences. And I think eventually a fair number of Canadians didn't believe the propaganda put out by the government that these were horrible people and we have to stop them because they're really bad, horrible people. But it took a while, and the Canadians don't have anywhere near the breadth of media in Canada that we do in the United States.
Oh, alternative media.
Right. Or yes.
Is the media in Canada run by the government?
Most of the media in Canada is subsidized by the government, which gives the government a lot of control. Also, in a way, gives the media a lot of sway in the government too. It works both ways. But yes, Canadian media is far more leftist than it is in the United States, and it's partly because there just isn't a lot of alternative media in Canada.
I look at this article from Edward where it says why the Iran war is breaking the U.S.-European strategic alliance,
Ah,
which
okay.
I've looked at that, particularly from Trump's viewpoint,
Yeah,
that can't count on our European guys.
exactly.
Well, this article says Europe's mad at us.
Well, of course. I'm not surprised. And it's not Europe. It's the European government is mad at us
individual governments, yeah.
because they don't want us to rock the boat. And because they're terrified, have been
Right.
terrified of Iran.
They're so terrified they're eventually just going to crumble.
It's just crazy. It's yes, sort of the Chamberlain with Hitler kind of analogy. If we just give them what they want, they won't hurt us.
But they came out and
a lot of it too is pandering to the Muslims that have been imported in the last couple of decades.
But they come out publicly and denounced Trump's invasion, and then broke off all cooperation. Which I think Trump's right to sit back, and we need to reevaluate.
Well, right. Okay.
Everything. NATO, we need to reevaluate.
Yeah, there's
but look at the money the United States spends on NATO versus other countries.
True.
And I'm including us having our military in Germany and Spain.
Well, and some people are saying, well, we'll move it to Poland and the Czech Republic and places like
Saudi
that.
Arabia.
One of the things that we had done prior to the election of Barack Obama was we had a missile defense system that was going to be put, as I recall, in the Czech Republic and in Poland.
Well, there was one going to Germany that's no longer going.
Perhaps it may have been part of the whole thing. And once Barack Obama got in, he made a deal with Vladimir Putin, and he defunded all of that. And the major purpose of that defense system was not to guard against Russia. It was to guard against missiles from Iran.
Oh, it was?
Yeah.
Because NATO originally was a Russia target.
Well, that was one of the things.
Yeah.
But we saw that Iran was developing these long-range missiles, which put Europe at risk from Iranian missiles. And these systems could have potentially, they could guard against Iranian missiles.
But it's not just that these foreign countries, these European countries didn't support it. It's they publicly went out and says, we don't support illegal wars. And how do you define that?
Well, it's just silly.
Yeah.
But they sure wanted our help on, quote, illegal wars when Bill Clinton went into the Caucasus, the former Eastern European system where Yugoslavia was.
Yeah.
I mean, they wanted our military help then, Europe did, because they were worried, supposedly, about those countries becoming too far to the left. So we defended a lot of Muslims in those countries, in Albania and in what was Serbia, even though those people had been allies of ours, very strong allies in World War II.
Right.
And the Europeans loved us when we were doing that on their behalf, even though this wasn't an action that was in any way that was defending NATO. It wasn't no NATO country was involved.
And in South America, when United Kingdom got involved in that.
Oh, for the Falklands
War, which they couldn't supply it. I mean,
well, they had a stronger military then. We aided them a lot, and we paid a price for it. The Argentines were not very happy with us at all.
No.
And they had been strong allies of the United States.
Yeah.
Now with Milei in power in Argentina, maybe we can rebuild that relationship.
Yeah, but and they didn't mind us getting involved in Ukraine. Of course.
The Europeans, right.
Europeans. But all of a sudden
when we
now
ask
it's
for help,
illegal now.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I'd like to see.
And it's just kind of crazy because the Europeans are one of those most at risk from the Iranian missiles.
But they're the ones most afraid.
Yeah, exactly. And when you project fear and weakness, it makes you more of a target.
Yeah, I was going to say it's Putin's got to love all that.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't know. I mean, Putin has a lot of his own problems.
Well, now he does. Yeah.
Right. I mean, but I'm not 100% sure that Putin wants a weak Europe. Maybe. I mean, there have been Russian aspirations to regain some of the Eastern Europe that they had under control during the Cold War.
Well, yeah.
But on the other hand, if you look at Russian history, they've been invaded by European armies very significantly, 3 times in the last 150 years. I mean, if you count Napoleon, and then you count World War I with the Germans, and then you count World War II with the Germans again under the Nazis,
Yeah.
they have reason to fear Western Europe as a potential invader.
Sure.
So, I mean, and they've shown themselves just to be not anywhere near the power they were as the former Soviet Union.
No. Even though on paper they were the second largest military.
Well, they have a big nuclear arsenal, thousands of warheads.
Yeah.
What kind of shape those warheads are in, I don't know.
Well,
I
they listed like 20,000 tanks or something, or 12,000 tanks.
well, they
But most of them were World War II, and they were set
or
and
in
rusting.
between. The 54s were a pretty
Yeah.
good tank for their time. But that was for their time, and it's not their time anymore. And what we're seeing, I mean, probably one of the biggest indicators of a lack of Russian power was how they acted with this last Victory Day parade, where they just had a few people marching through. They didn't have armor.
Nope.
They didn't have big missile systems. And it was done with the cooperation of the Ukrainians, who said, we give you 15 minutes. 45 minutes. We won't attack you in that period.
They also closed the square for like weeks before, so that there could be no shenanigans or something.
Something like they're being
Yeah.
very careful about
Red Square was
bombs
off,
or
yeah.
IEDs or things like that. I mean,
Yeah.
all of those show that Russia is not the dominant power. It can't necessarily protect itself, and this all shows the resolution and the ingeniousness of the Ukrainians, to where Moscow is now under threat from Ukrainian firepower, and mostly in the form of drones.
They just had the biggest drone attack on Moscow just the other day, this within the last week. And right before that, that was the biggest drone attack on Ukraine by Russia since the start of the war. And then right after that, Moscow. So
yeah, so Moscow. I mean, it's harder and harder for Putin and the propaganda machine in Russia to convince the people, and primarily in Moscow, which is where a huge center of power is. I mean, that's the capital. That's where the intelligentsia is. It's where the government, most of the government officials are, heads of the military, all that. And when those people no longer feel that the Russian military can necessarily protect them, it changes the dynamic of everything.
That's what I've heard. I mean, I guess that's always been the promise, from what I've read, that we're
in this
high.
war and everything, but we're safe here. It's very similar to what the Japanese said in World War II. We can hit the Americans, but they can't hit us.
Right.
And well, the Doolittle raid is what changed all that for Japan. And all of a sudden it was, oh, this is not good. They hit us.
And they pulled back after that. They pulled a lot of.
It did. And I would say the big turning point was Midway. Some people might say it was the Coral Sea. But a combination of those things. And then and of course, it was our productive power. It was our industrial might that turned the war.
The assembly lines were kicking out war machines every day.
We produced more war material, I think, than all the other combatants combined on both sides, on all sides.
A lot of it went to Russia.
Quite a bit did.
Lend-Lease program, just trucks and stuff too.
Well, it was a huge amount of stuff. A lot of the steel they built their tanks out of was from us.
Yeah.
A lot of the food that sustained their troops in combat, a lot of the boots that allowed them to fight was from us. And I don't denigrate the Soviet contribution at all.
No,
they lost huge
20 million
numbers,
people or
something like that.
Yeah.
And their casualties on the Eastern Front against the Germans were horrific.
Yeah.
They lost, at least in some of the battles. And so a really good historian may correct me on this, but they lost 5 combatants to every one that the Germans lost. And they still won.
Yeah.
Because they just kept pushing, and they had more people and more material, and while they couldn't outfight the Germans on a 1-to-1 basis, they had so many combatants and so much material they could destroy the Germans, and they did. It was Stalin is quoted as saying this, but I don't know if it's really true, and that is, quantity has a quality all of its own.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Well,
they outproduced the Germans in aircraft enormously, and they took command of the air on the Eastern Front. I
didn't know that about Russia had aircraft.
They produced aircraft in tremendous quantities. They had kind of like a Civil Air Patrol program in the United States before the war, and they trained a lot of pilots to a basic level. I mean, they weren't trained anywhere near to the proficiency of the
but they could
German
take off and land.
Well, they could take off and land, and they could do missions. They could transport stuff, and they did. And there were just so many more of them that the Russians couldn't, or the Germans couldn't shoot them all down. And eventually, they would lose a person here and there. It treated the Germans down to being fairly ineffective in the air over the front over the Eastern Front.
Yeah, that was a tough war. We don't need to redo that. But I think I think Russia's still fighting those same tactics in Ukraine.
Yes. They're fighting the last war, which is a tendency for all militaries to do. And the big, glorious victory for the Russians was defeating the Nazis in World War II.
Yeah.
And they tried to use the same tactics in Ukraine, essentially World War II tactics, in my opinion. And they've got bogged down in a World War I type of bog down with modern technology, which means the Ukrainian mastery of drone warfare is now putting the Russians on their heel. I mean, they haven't taken back a bunch of territory yet, but the Russians are losing people. It appears to me, and this is all difficult to ascertain, that the Russians are being attrited roughly 5-1.
Yeah.
And at that rate, they can't sustain it. So it's slowly shifting to the advantage of the Ukrainians, and it could go back the other way anytime.
I've read there's more like 11-1 right now at some of these skirmishes.
It may be.
Because of the ground robots.
Exactly. I mean, the Ukrainians have just showed themselves, and of course they're getting help from European technicians in the United States, I'm sure. They just have shown themselves as more adept at drone warfare than the Russians. And the Russians aren't complete slouches, but when your tactics consist of throwing poorly trained people in mass attacks at an enemy who's got machine guns and drones and artillery, it no longer works very well.
No, but the Ukrainians are doing the drones by necessity because they don't have the people.
Exactly.
So they're getting machines to do it, and now they've got a system set up to where the drone operators don't have to be close to the front line, and that was something that the Russians was a highly prized target to get these guys that are flying the drones.
Of course, right.
Now they can be 1,000 miles away. They're working it through satellite somehow or something to where
they probably use. I would not be surprised if they use Starlink.
They're not saying how they're doing it.
Smart. And of course, we know that some of the drones were connected by fiber optic links so they'd be free from jamming. Yeah. I mean, there's a whole bunch of different ways they can do things. More of drones are autonomous or semi-autonomous, against jamming techniques.
But they're having these guys sit in their living rooms and run the drones away from the front lines and taking them out of
right, which puts them in a better defensive posture.
Yeah.
So I mean, I personally, I absolutely hate the Russian-Ukrainian war. I think it was miscalculated. And
it's only been 4 years.
Oh gosh,
isn't that crazy?
We probably had over 1 million casualties, if you kind of say. Some people say 1.5 million just on Russia alone. I don't know, because those casualty figures are highly guarded. But it does appear to me, if the Russians were only getting as many casualties as the Ukrainians, they'd have won a long time ago. but the Ukrainians are able to inflict punishing casualties on them for any land that they gain.
You know, these drone guys, the guys that are doing the drone, they're groups. They kind of like started themselves, not military.
Initially,
they're
they were
Mhm.
like individual citizens.
And you get paid according to productivity. Productivity is how many confirmed kills.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, I can believe that.
Well, it sounds kind of bad, but they're playing video games. These guys are video gaming,
Well, right.
and they're playing it just like a video game, and they're scoring.
Well, and this is where I have mixed thoughts about all the video gaming our young people do in the United States. Well, those might be really good drone operators.
Seems to be a good drone operator.
I mean, it all depends on various things, but although we've had drones of various kinds for a very long time, at least since World War,
Like the
Korean War, and then the more so in Vietnam, but it's been a relatively small part of our operations.
reconnaissance is how it all
right.
starts.
Oh, exactly, a lot of that. And heck, you could consider the V2 rockets and the V1 in World War II to be drones of a sort.
Yeah,
They're autonomous machines that were fired off, and then they had a guidance system, and
they were point and light. Pretty much.
I mean, they were terror weapons, and
yeah.
I mean, they did what they were designed to do pretty well. It's just that it wasn't good enough to win the war for them.
The drone technology is scary.
Well, it is.
If we had, because if our border was so open, we don't know how many people with drone technology got into this country that could raise havoc with us.
Right. I know that when it comes to really high value targets like Washington, D.C., and the president, for example, that anti-drone technologies are employed.
Right.
So there you are.
But those are jamming devices.
Well,
and
that's
stuff.
that and possibly other things. And for every counter, there's another counter.
Yeah.
And that is what we've learned from the Ukrainians so much, is that they've had to be so innovative to overcome the other side. I mean, like I said, Russia's not technologically incompetent. They just haven't been able to keep up with the Ukrainians.
Yeah.
And the Ukrainians are now in demand. For example, in the Middle East,
Saudi Arabia is buying a lot from Ukraine.
how have you been able to defend against Russian drones and Chinese inspired drones?
Well, they're buying the equipment.
Iranian inspired drones.
Buying equipment from Ukraine.
Yes, and know-how. Know-how is probably the biggest single thing.
Yeah. And the way they spot these Ashid the drones is audio.
Yes, I read about that.
Isn't that something?
Which probably means it's obsolete.
I don't know.
Well, they wouldn't be acknowledging it if it was the primary means of their defense, because there's things you can do to try to defeat it. You put mufflers on your engines and do other things, deflectors to try to get the noise to go in different directions. I mean, there are ways you can work on it. So when I read about it in headline news, I figured, oh, it's not working anymore.
Well, they put thousands of audio listening devices in Saudi Arabia.
Yes, and it actually, it's another detection technology that we have not had not developed defenses against offenses against so much. And the Shahid drones have been noted for their distinctive noise.
Correct. They got a little 4-cylinder motor on the back.
Well, it's it's a one-way thing. It's a powerful little motor, and it only has to operate for a few hours.
Looks like a little road tax or something.
Yeah, something like that.
But they fly low, so the radars don't normally hit them.
Well, they've changed. All that has changed, and so now the Shahid versions that are being flown in the Ukrainian war by Russia now go at various altitudes. They don't have as predictable a flight path. All these things have had to be overcome by the Ukrainians, and they have been pretty successful.
But you start getting up to altitude, they're going to see it on radar now.
Right. Well, but they don't have a big radar signature either.
No, but they're there.
Right.
The You see how they're shooting them down, though. I mean, you shoot $1 million Patriot at a $30,000
Yeah, it's
Shahed.
not a,
It's a
not a
loser.
winning combination.
They've got, the Ukrainians have taken some old cargo planes, turboprop cargo planes, and put Gatling guns in them.
Okay.
And then they're directed by the traffic control. Oh, well, you got them over here, got them over there, and they fly to them, shoot them down, and move on. But these guys are shooting down hundreds.
Okay, and they've also used some prop
Experimental
double-seater planes.
Yeah, I've seen those.
And
those are mostly electronic jammers. And then,
and then they have some anti-drone drones.
Yep.
That either crash into the drone or they might have a weaponry on them. I hadn't seen the weaponry being used.
That same twin-engine cargo plane that's 70 years old that they're using.
Okay.
They put hard points on it, and then they mounted those $1,000 anti-drone drones, and they released those too. They got the Gatling gun, and they release them. And they say the nice thing about that is when these anti-drones have a very short battery life, short range, and they spend most of their power getting to altitude.
Oh, so you release them at altitude, and they've got a much longer effective range.
Oh, yeah. Apparently, as soon as they release them, it's just seconds before they're right there on the drone. And they travel. They can travel like 180 knots.
So
maximum.
Are these suicide anti-drones?
Yes.
Okay.
They don't have to necessarily. They'll ram the drone or explode near it. Either way, but they have a small charge enough to shatter.
Well, all they have to do is disable the engine.
Yeah.
Or disable the software, on the drone.
But have you seen the little anti-drone drones? The ones that look like a bullet. They look like a little bullet with a tripod.
I have not.
That's what they're using, and these things are. They cruise at like 140 knots.
Well, they have to exceed that of the Shahed.
The Shahed's going less than 100 miles now.
Right.
And but they can accelerate up to like 180.
Yeah.
For short terms.
I have seen short video clips supposedly from an anti-drone as it is approaching Shahed drones, different places, and it never showed right up to the point of impact. And I couldn't be certain from watching that whether it was a suicide drone. And I thought, well, if they just put any kind of weapon on there, they could shoot the motor and then they could be reused. But apparently that's not as effective as other systems.
I'm typing one on here because I've
been interested in the Ukrainian conflict because, I've got a lot of military background. I'm interested in history. I think it's a really stupid war, but in my opinion, Ukraine,
looks like a little bullet. It's small. Yeah.
They're tiny. You couldn't put a shotgun on there.
No, it's only about 12 inches tall.
Yeah, but they're fast. You're saying they go 180 miles per hour. Wow. Yeah, okay, I see what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had not seen pictures of these before.
And they put these on the...
they look like they could be pretty cheap.
$1,000.
Wow, yeah, and you're shooting down a $20,000 drone with them.
Yeah.
Now, that's the kind of equation you want to have working for you in a war.
Yeah, they don't look... And they make them on these printers, the...
3D printers?
3D printers. That's how they're making them.
Wow.
And they're rattling them off to $10,000 a month.
Oh, wow.
And they're selling them now to Ukraine. Yeah, I mean to Saudi Arabia the United Arab Emirates.
Well, the old wisdom used to be the best defense against a tank is another tank. Well, it looks like the best defense against a drone may be another drone.
Yeah, $1,000 drone.
A cheap drone that can take out an expensive drone.
But when they take off with that little cargo plane now, these things are hanging all over the wings.
Sure.
They'll take off and
what you see here is that everything has consequences. And while Iran doesn't have a great, huge Air Force anymore, they still have an Air Force.
Yeah.
And their air defenses have become so good that they have at least air superiority over Ukraine.
Right.
Not necessarily supremacy, because I think the Russians can still operate there to a certain extent. But the Russians have learned to be very careful because their planes get shot down.
Yes, they do. They've lost a lot.
So I would say they have air superiority, not supremacy like we have over Iran, but superiority. And that allows them to use a 2-engine cargo plane to launch these drones to take down the Russian Shahed version of drones.
Yeah.
Very impressive.
It really is. And it's so much cheaper, and they're making them so fast
Well,
now.
they have to. I mean, that's what you need. The U.S. won World War II because we outproduced everybody else.
China kind of cut them off on selling them parts for drones. So they manufacture their own motors now and their own.
You're talking about Ukraine.
Ukraine, they've cut them off.
Yeah.
Because they were supporting Russia, and I guess.
Well, I have said the major winner in the Ukrainian war has been China.
No.
I'm not sure I'd say that anymore.
No.
Because President Trump has turned things around. I mean,
China's got competition now.
They do, and they have their own economic problems in China. One of the big problems in China is of any centrally managed economy is you can make big mistakes.
Yeah.
There's no correction factor. For example, President Xi is a big proponent of wind power.
Well,
so they're building
export it, not in. I mean,
yeah, there's huge amounts of it in China.
Oh, is there?
Right.
I thought they didn't consume it as much as they just built it for us.
Well, they consume a fair amount of it too, and the problem is that wind power is not very economic when you look at it in the big picture, and that is because the wind doesn't blow all the time. If the wind blew steadily all the time, it would be economic because you could depend on it as a power source. But because you can't depend on it as a power source, you have to build other generating plants like coal-fired or nuclear or whatever to be sure to be able to take up the space when the wind power fails. So that makes it uneconomic because you've got to build twice as much generating capacity. Well, it's hard to make that economic.
I don't like wind power.
Well, I
mean, I know it works.
Well,
but it's very expensive.
It turns out to be rather expensive. It's not nearly as economic as people have sold it out to be. If you look at the maximum power output, then it sounds like it does. But the problem is it doesn't continue for 24/7. And so you have to build other ways. Now, I will say there's a technology that's being developed that could make wind power a lot more competitive. And that's if you had storage capacity for the electricity they produce in peak periods, so you could use it in off periods. But right now, that's the cost of that storage capacity is not competitive. But that can all change. The battery technology is changing very rapidly, and if storage capacity becomes 1/10 the cost of what it is now, that would make wind power much more competitive.
I'm reading that wind power in China is roughly 11 to 11.6% of their total
capacity. That's quite a lot.
That's a whole lot. That's more than the United States.
Oh, yeah. And what I have read, now this is just what I've read, so I can't say it's true for certain, is that this is mostly because President Xi or Chairman Xi, I think, close. Xi is a big proponent of wind power. So people build it because he wants it. Not necessarily because it makes sense.
Well, we currently use 10.5% for us, so it's grown a lot here. But Trump is not a fan. He's canceled some projects.
Well, I think that's smart on Trump's part because it just is not economic. Now, if it were economic, it wouldn't have to be subsidized.
No. And that's exactly right. It is subsidized most everywhere in the world.
Right.
People subsidize it because we're green. It's not that green energy thing that
exactly, and it's
kind of
based on ideology, not on economics.
I want to talk about the longevity gene.
Oh,
there is one. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'd heard that there was some research recently on this.
They can't do anything with it yet, but this is in relation to Alzheimer's.
Oh,
they find that there's an APOE2 gene that helps neurons repair DNA damage and resist cellular damage in a new study.
Right. Yeah, I'd heard of this.
They're calling it the longevity gene. Now, apparently that's just something you're born with.
Right.
And but this article suggests you don't go get testing and everything. There's nothing they can do for you. So why test,
Well,
whatever.
I mean,
they're not at that point.
There is gene therapy.
Yeah, but they're not at the point yet on that specifically.
Well, I mean, it's how to put it. It's not clear that using some sort of gene therapy to get the benefits of this gene would be impossible.
No, it's not. I don't know what it would cost you, but insurance won't cover it. Probably.
Yeah, that's true.
But then there's an APOE4 that's significantly higher risk of Alzheimer's disease because it's fragile, and
okay.
And it's going to show signs of aging and dysfunction. So I don't know if you're a 4 or a 2.
Well, you can, with all the genetic testing out there, you might be able to do tests to
Yeah,
figure out what
but
you are.
you can. They don't recommend it.
Yeah.
What are you going to do if you find out?
Yeah. Well, maybe you could exercise more. I don't know. Watch your diet. Watch your weight.
Well,
all
that
the
you should
things
do
that
anyway.
You already are
absolutely.
supposed to do.
You should do that regardless. But it's well known for the cholesterol transport, which the brain's a lot of cholesterol.
Interesting.
Stuff we're not supposed to have. The brain likes it.
I might have to read up on this research. It's
Yeah.
interesting.
But there's a protective mechanism in the APO2. So not everyone ages the same. So APO2 is well known for cholesterol transport and uncovering the major pathway and seeing it hold up across multiple human neurons models and aged mice was striking for us.
Neuron models, huh?
Yeah.
So computer models are
So
part of this.
They're
But
looking.
aged mice, I kind of actually respect that a little more.
Yeah, they're seeing if the aged mice could still do the mazes,
Right. Well, things like that. I mean, this
Yeah.
is how we learn about things.
Right now, the Alzheimer's Association currently has 13 active projects in 4 countries investigating APOE2's role in protecting against Alzheimer's disease. So that's good. It's going to be good for the next generation. I don't think it's going to help us.
Hard to know.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I mean, my grandchildren have another 60 years, more than me, probably.
Who knows?
So, I mean, when I say that, I mean, just given the lifespan in limits today. So in that 60 years, who knows what tech will be available? Will they, maybe they'll be able to expand their lifespan by 20, 30, 40, 50 years. Who knows?
And I forget how much, the doctor, but the longevity doctor, I'll think of his name in a minute, but he said the person that's going to live to be 125 or 130 is already alive on the planet now.
I think that's reasonable speculation.
Well, and that would be a big extension over known longevity outside the
there's
Bible.
Been several candidates that look like they may have lived to be close to 120.
Possibly.
I mean, I'm talking about less than the number of fingers on one hand. And it's always difficult to validate these claims because people have good reasons to lie about how old they are.
Yeah, but they usually lie that they're younger.
Right. But in some places, if you can show you're older, you get benefits a lot faster.
That's what I'm looking for.
So you have to take these claims with a good deal of skepticism.
I asked for the oldest living person in the last 100 years in the United States.
Okay.
Naomi Whitehead lived to be 115, and that's the oldest in the last 100 years. So 115 is a deal.
I recall there was supposed to be a woman in France who lived to like 118 or 119.
Yeah, there's been a few of those, but they're hard to
validate.
You can't get the birth certificate and stuff.
Right.
So, yeah. But 115 is the oldest.
Right. So saying that we can
in 100 years,
somebody will live to 125, that's 10 additional years.
Yeah. And that doesn't mean it's going to be productive.
That's true. But what I see is these people who live to great ages usually are sort of healthy, even at great ages, because if they're not, they die.
Yeah.
So they may have mobility issues. They can't run and hop and skip and jump as easily. I had an aunt who lived to be, I think, 103. But the last few years of her life, she lived in a wheelchair and on a bed, So the last decade probably was not particularly productive, but she was said to be a pretty sound mind.
The amount of people in the United States that live to be 100 years old, 0.03%.
Okay. So, yes. It's growing though.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I had that friend in Australia who lived to be 102. And I have to say, he had a much clearer mind at 99 than he did at 101.
More than Joe Biden?
Yes.
Yeah, Joe Biden's
At
lost.
99, I'm saying. That's when I first met him. And he was pretty sharp. And I hate to say it, but he declined significantly in the next couple of years.
Let me see. There's an estimated 300 to 450 people living right now that are 110 years or old.
In the world.
In the world, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It's
How
hard
many of those in the U.S., I wonder?
Probably fewer because it's so much high stress in the United States.
Well, but we're very prosperous, so we can have better medical care, better food generally. I would think the majority of them, I'm going to guess, would be in the U.S.
Over 110?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's find out.
Well, because we got red dye in Fruit Loops, though, I don't think.
Yeah, well, I'm very skeptical about all these minute quantities of something.
Well, they took it out real quick.
And I agree with that, frankly. But my logic is not that it's a danger to everyone, but that there's a small subset of the population that are sensitive to it, and that it can be harmful to them. And so to guard against that, it's not like it's super important for our economy or our health to have red dye number 2.
There's approximately 60 to 70 valid living Americans validated 110 or older.
Out of how many? 300?
Just out of the United States, 330 million.
Oh. No. I'm saying out of the world population of over 110 is what was you just told me?
400 to 500.
So we're only a little over 10%.
Yeah.
I would have thought it'd been higher.
Well, we're 60 to 70. Yeah.
So 60 or 70 is in about 20%.
Yeah. Percentage of people, 110. I mean, I'm planning on 110 myself.
Well, I don't plan on it, but I'd like to reach it.
I'm going to reach it. This Alzheimer thing, although you'd like to reach it and not have Alzheimer's and at least know that you're 110.
Alzheimer's is horrible. It's absolutely horrible.
Yeah.
And we're putting a lot of research into it, and we at least know some techniques that can slow it down.
And here's something I read not too long ago, but there was a situation where they believed that the sisters that were involved in a convent and teaching and all that were not subject to Alzheimer's, and they didn't know why. Like, why were these people not getting? They were getting much older, but they seemed to be. They still knew. They still had great recall. They still kept learning, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So they agreed to have autopsies, after they died,
Right. Yeah.
And what they found was that the brain was as deteriorated as anybody. They had people with deteriorated brains and stuff in Alzheimer's. The reason that they kept, not showing signs of it was because what they studied constantly, they continued to read the Bible. They continued to study. So they said that they built more and more pathways to knowledge versus a single pathway to some knowledge. So
you're saying being more intellectually active helps them.
Helped them, even though if they lost some brain cells, and they did. They had some sections of their brain that was deteriorated. They kept learning, kept working, kept thinking, kept moving. So they may have 5 connections to a passage instead of 1. So they didn't lose that passage.
Well, this has been something that has been touted for several years now. Is that if you learn new things and you keep intellectually active, you can stave off the effects of Alzheimer's for a good while.
Right. Or maybe the symptoms thereof. Maybe you're getting it and you're not showing it. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good way. I was trying to say that with effects, but you said it better.
But that's what they said about those nuns, is that it surprised them all. Because they figured they would take a look and it would be like miraculously that
they had much better brains, but it turned out
they did not. They had the
just
same
used what they
age-related
had better.
Same age-related problems.
Yeah.
Same deals. Just they kept working, thinking, reading, praying, and so their memories were hidden all over the place. They couldn't get to them. There's some fires going on in California. I mean, I guess this is California fire season.
I guess so.
You know, I get so sad about that. I mean, California's such a beautiful place, and they burn it. And we have some fires in Arizona too. I just read, but very much smaller and
Hey,
more
I've
contained.
got a question. Somebody asked it to me online early this morning, and it was something to the effect that the Colorado River reservoirs were drying up. Have you heard that?
Yes. In fact, you can take a look at it. It's, I think Lake Mead is like 30%, but they've been drying up for years. We've been in a,
But we've had them refill at times too, or at least
yes,
partially.
there have been years where it goes up and years where it goes down.
And you were talking the other day about the possibility of a super El Nino. Well, if we
Yes.
get that, that'll do a lot to refill the reservoirs.
Well, and I keep reading that they're still on track with this super El Nino, and it's going to last for months.
Well, and if it does, we might even get the reservoirs topped off. I mean, it takes a lot to do that.
Not a chance, but it definitely will.
It will certainly refill them to a large extent.
Well, yeah, we'll get we'll gain ground.
Right.
It's not bad. We're going to gain ground, but the amount of
well, what it takes to fill them is a huge amount.
yeah, we're not going to get that in 1 year, no matter what. Let me see. I got a water database right here. For Lake Powell, it's 23.35% full.
Oh, only less than a quarter full.
Yeah. And it's low. And then let me see, Lake Mead.
I think I heard that Powell was the lowest.
Lake Mead's at 30%.
Yeah, you can see it was bumped up to what's that line there?
That's a normal throughout the year. I mean, this is when the snowpack melts and comes
right.
comes
So
down.
sort of an annual
But
thing.
that's not much. And you could do these datas for
That's pretty interesting. You pulled it right up online.
data for up to 10. I know that's just the current one. I know I can get Lake
See,
Mead.
part of this is management too, and the way the water rights are allocated here in the West.
Well, this is the same thing over the last 5 years. You see, in 21 it was quite a bit higher. 24, right now we're in 25. We're down in this red,
Yeah, I see.
and this was 22. It was below that. It's above where it was in 22.
Okay.
Well, no, here's where we are currently. This is 26. We're
okay.
right along the 22 range.
Okay.
So we need the El Nino. We need a big bump,
Right.
and we haven't had it.
Well, it looks like we got a good chance in the next few months.
Hopefully, just to hang on,
Yeah.
because we're at 30% full in Lake Mead.
Yeah, we'd like it to be up near
When I moved
100%.
I moved to Arizona in 95. And at that point, that was just after, I think, that Lake Mead was so full of water, they had to release water to keep it from hurting the dam,
Right.
because it was full capacity.
Right.
And I think I destroyed it, because after I moved here, it just kept going down.
Oh, yeah. So it was you.
Yeah, it was you. It was me.
Gosh,
Yeah, it was me.
That's amazing. What a power.
but
What a power.
that was back when the Gila River was running real heavy.
Well, we had a couple of years since I've been here where the Gila has flooded.
yeah.
And that's usually during a strong El Nino.
Yep.
And it's really interesting when it happens. I mean, I took a trip down the Gila on a kayak about the second time that it happened, and it was fascinating because there was nobody else on the river. It's a new river.
Nobody thinks about that.
Right.
Let's
Except
take
odd people like me.
Yeah.
And so it was a fun trip.
Normally you can hike the river.
Right. Exactly. It's almost all dry, a few ponds, a few pools here and there. And then as you get down to the southern end, or the western edge of the Gila, the irrigation water starts going in, and you get a constant little trickle that reaches the Colorado.
Right. And then
but it's not a huge amount. It's in many cases, it's not enough to, how to put it, reliably float a kayak.
no, and there at the confluence, it's a very, very, I mean, locally it's a gathering place.
Right. And at the confluence,
you can drive across it.
It's kind of marshy, and
it doesn't look like you're in the desert.
Right.
but you still are. But hopefully we get something back. Can't count on it because we're in trouble. I mean, really, these things are.
Yeah. Well, when we say we're in trouble, first, a lot of that water goes to California to sustain their big cities over there. I'm not sure. Do you have any idea what the percentage it is out of the?
Oh, you can
flow?
look it up because it's according to a compact that's
Right.
made between the 5 states,
Right.
on where it all goes.
And a certain amount has to go down to Mexico.
Yep. Yep.
And we have a huge plant that hasn't been used hardly at all. Desalination plant to make sure that the water that goes to Mexico meets the standards we agreed to in the treaty.
They haven't used it much since it was built, and it has.
And it was an enormous expenditure at the time.
Oh, yeah.
$1 billion.
Was it that much?
Yes, it was very big, very expensive.
I know it's there. Its maintenance is kept up. BLM, I think, has offices in there. But
I know I had some friends who worked there that were water specialists.
Yeah, but they haven't.
But I think they retired several years ago.
I don't think they flipped the switch on probably in 10 years.
I think you're right. It might be more than that. They just have not used it hardly at all.
Yeah. No.
I mean, it just turned out that way because of the way the flow was.
Well, I mean, they still have salinated water that goes right by it because there's pumps in Yuma that pump groundwater out. So
right. Correct. But I mean, the water that goes to Mexico in the canal that feeds their irrigation system has to meet a certain quality.
Correct.
And so that's why that desalination plant was there. And we just haven't had to use it much.
No. And that desalination, I mean, that water that's in the Selenial Canal does go to Mexico also, but it's separate from the river.
Right.
And it feeds some marshes now down in.
Yeah. And they're pretty brackish.
Yeah. But now there's rare birds there, so we can't turn it off.
Well, yeah.
Brought in some wildlife. Because.
Well, okay, makes sense. I mean, brackish water is still water, and there are plants and animals that thrive in it.
Yes. And now they're endangered species. And
okay, yeah. Gee, they weren't here before, but they are now.
Yeah, they are now. Now they're endangered. You better not do anything to disrupt all that stuff. These fires in California right now, the Sandy fire broke out at 10:50 a.m. They know exactly where it was. 800 acres, which is like 800 acres is big. Not massive.
It's only a little over a square mile.
Yeah. It's just north of Los Angeles. And
so what was the cause of it?
A truck.
Oh, so it wasn't arson.
A driver operator in a tractor struck a rock, sparking a brush fire in Ventura County.
Okay.
Isn't that weird? So now there's 500 personnel battling it, 5 helicopters, 3 air tankers.
Wow. Well, they don't want it to get huge.
Of course not. We've been through that. Yeah. Palisades.
Right.
Because once you burn your house down, you could never rebuild it, apparently.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's, it's because
of the system.
In California, a lot of it is because of the zoning laws.
Yeah, getting a permit.
Yeah, right.
My house burned down. I need to rebuild it. Yeah, well, get in line. Get a permit someday.
There's a lot of variances allowed for something that was grandfathered in. So, on how the structure is built, what the septic system is, what the electric power system is. And California has very, very strict regulations on all of that. So it's extremely hard to rebuild a house that was put in the 60s when they didn't have it.
I don't even know what all's holding them up. I mean, there's so many rumors out there that they wanted to put in homeless people.
Well, there are a lot of rumors on that. And I recall something about the Trump administration say, no, this is a national emergency. We're going to override all that, and you're going to be able to get permits.
That was President Trump himself that went to Chicago. I mean, went to LA and sat down with the mayor and everybody. Say, look, guys, we can get this done real quick. You just get this done, and I'll help.
Well, I thought there was some kind of presidential proclamation or emergency rule or something.
There might have been, but I think it was all moot because LA didn't do their end of it.
Well, I understood that more permits were being allowed.
Maybe. It's been a year. And this guy that's running against the current LA mayor is,
he's fun.
He's still living in a trailer because he can't get his house rebuilt.
Right.
He's as frustrated as anybody.
Yeah, and the people in Los Angeles love his calling out the mayor on this stuff.
Yeah, he's got these videos out there, and these memes are just wonderful.
Yes.
They're just working really well. Rick Morton, I guess he's with the I don't know if thinks he's with the police. He said that spark quickly ignited the brush, expanded into the Sandy fire while investigation of the incident remains ongoing. So, truck driver's the one that called. The guy that started it accidentally called and said, "Hey, look, I hit this rock. It's out of control. You need to get over here."
That's interesting.
That's
a very aware truck driver because, a spark doesn't go into a detectable blaze in a second or 30 seconds.
No, but if you're on the side of the road working on your truck and you all of a sudden notice it, it's like, uh-oh.
If that happened, that makes perfect sense.
What the heck's? It says air crews are making aggressive water and retardant drops in support of crews on the ground. The fire department, a temporary evacuation point's been established at the Rancho Santa Susana Community Park in Cincinnati.
Well, I hope they don't find a cigarette butt at the start of the fire.
Well, I know with the Palisades fire, they've arrested people that started some of them. I mean, these were a lot of fires
deliberately.
That converged.
Absolutely. Pure arson.
Yeah. 2 wildfires broke out in the Antelope Valley north of Los Angeles over the weekend. Both those fires have since been contained. That means they're still burning or contained. And the Angeles North National Forest Burrow Fire broke out Monday, expanded to at least 30 acres. So it doesn't take long. These things travel quickly. And California does notoriously terrible job maintaining dead brush and all that other stuff.
Yes. They used to have a very good system. And, they would contain them better. But it's partly the deep green ecology. You can't cut brush.
Yes.
You can't maintain a fire lane.
Leave Mother Nature alone.
Yeah.
Don't mess with it.
Unfortunately, for whatever reason, we are the only ones who can really manage nature.
Yeah.
And it's our responsibility to do so.
Well, I ran into I was talking to a fireman years ago, like many years ago, and we were talking about the fires out of control, especially the crown fires and stuff. And the crown fires, when it gets so hot, they
dry,
that it kills the soil even. The microbes.
The fires. Yeah, I'm saying that those crown fires tend to happen in very hot and dry conditions.
Yeah, but it takes a lot of fuel, and that fuel builds up because we don't clean it up.
Yeah.
Well, the guy says, yeah, we used to manage our forest, and for 2,000 years we managed them, and I'm like, well, wait a minute, we haven't even been there. He says, oh, but the Indians would let it burn.
Absolutely.
Indians,
and that was their way of managing the environment and changing it to their advantage.
Yes. So they would start fires on their own.
Oh, yeah.
To keep it from building up and stuff.
There's all kinds of historical accounts.
And then it doesn't harm the trees. It burns trees so quick that the trees survive it.
What you find is that there are a lot of species, several species of trees that have been adapted that they won't even put out their seeds until there's been a fire.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And then release them.
And then they regrow faster.
What's your favorite pizza?
Well, I tend to like the all together combinations, the combinations that have a huge amount of stuff on them.
I just like pizza that someone else is buying.
Yeah. I like that.
That's my favorite. Somebody else paying for it. As far as a restaurant, which restaurant, which pizza?
Gosh, I haven't bought pizza in a restaurant for Coon's age. Long time.
The number one in the nation, according to New York Gov survey, New YouGov, not York, New YouGov, Pizza Hut. That was such a surprise.
Yeah.
19.1% voted the best tasting fast food pizza. Domino's number 2 at 17.1.
Wow.
Papa John's at 11.4. Little Caesar 5.3. And Marco's Pizza. I don't know if that's Marco Rubio. He's doing so many jobs. At 4.7, that's the top 5.
Pizza. I love pizza, but it's
me.
So calorific. So rich in calories.
I get indigestion
that I don't eat it anymore.
We're out of time, man. I appreciate you dropping by.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I'll see you tomorrow.
Yep.
In fact, I'll be back tomorrow with him. This is Mortgage One Studios, Russ Clark.